Party's on. Akins versus Akins. Step forward, please.
27-year-old credit counselor Nana Gail Akins is suing her estranged husband, Leonard Akins, 28, for their child's school uniforms, daycare, and medical bills.
Order, all rise. Yeah, this is case number 287 on the calendar in the matter of Akins versus Akins. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Mrs. Akins, you are separated from the defendant. According to your papers, you've been separated from him for about 3.5 years.
Yes, almost.
And you have a
4 years.
child together.
Yes.
And your request in this case is for an order from the court directing him to pay for certain things, such as your child's daycare, school uniforms, and some medical bills.
Yes.
Is he currently paying an order of support?
No, ma'am.
Do you have a court order for him to pay child support?
Yes, ma'am.
How much?
$210 a month.
Does the order provide for him to pay anything additional over and above the $210 a month?
He is to pay the $210 a month, plus he is to have him on current medical insurance.
Okay. Doesn't say anything about school uniforms?
No.
Doesn't say anything about daycare?
No.
Well, why are you coming to small claims court for those two things?
Because these are the items that I am paying for out of pocket by myself. I receive no help from him at all. I've asked on several occasions for money for different expenses for my child. That has not been given to me.
Okay. So, Ms. Akins, I'm going to give you a quick lesson in the law. If you have a court order, that means that a judge has determined that his support obligation is $210 a month, inclusive of everything else. Not $210 a month plus anything else that you may want him to pay for. Now, the fact that he is in non-compliance with that order is another issue. How much do you say he owes you?
I came up with $3,367.
For what?
$130 for medical.
Yeah.
$3,044 for the daycare, and that
No,
is
I'm not considering daycare. You're not hearing me, Mrs. Akins. The order that you have, you just told me, is for $210 a month. Plus, he is to maintain the child on medical insurance.
Yes.
So I'm not entertaining anything else. I'm not entertaining the daycare, because that should have been brought up with the judge who made the order for $210 a month. Do we understand each other?
So what are you saying? That he doesn't have to pay anything?
What am I saying? I am saying that when you went to mediation in court,
yes,
you listed the child's expenses.
Correct.
And based upon the child's expenses, which I assume included daycare,
the
judge made the order, or the mediator made a recommendation that was reduced to an order considering the child's expenses and his income. Based on that, court said his obligation is $210 a month. If you have additional daycare expenses and there was a change in circumstances since the original $210 a month order was made, then you go back to court and you file for an upward modification of your support order and ask for additional money, because you now have daycare expenses, which you did not have at the time the $210 a month order was made. Do you understand that?
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but what I am saying is that when we went to mediation, those things were not itemized as far as what the 210 was supposed to cover. So it was not set up as so much for daycare, this is to cover this is to cover clothing. It was not set up like that.
When you go for mediation, they ask what the child's expenses are. You fill out an expense form for the child. Did you not? Of course you did. What your rent was,
I'm trying to remember
what your rent was,
filled
what you
out.
spent for food, what you spent for clothing, what you spent for gas, electric, telephone.
Correct.
That's uniform throughout the states. And based upon those expenses, the court made an order based upon what the child's expenses were and his income. I don't have to repeat it again. What I said was very clear. Now, have you paid the order, sir? And I'm not here to enforce that order, because that's not what she's suing for.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you paid the $210 a month?
No, ma'am. The reason being
Why?
The reason being is because I've been speaking with the attorneys of the court that ordered me to pay $275. I went back in to have it readjusted. They stated that it was too much, so that's what we've been working on.
Mr. Akins.
Yes, ma'am.
When was this support order made, sir?
It's been a couple of months, about 6 months.
It's been past a year.
About
We
6
went
months.
in August of '97.
Because I'm not going to waste any more time on this case. Let us say, sir, I take your word for it that it was the last 6 months.
Yes, ma'am.
Why haven't you paid a penny?
The reason being, Your Honor, is because I had sole custody of my son. I spoke
During
to
this last 6 months?
I spoke.
Just during the last 6 months?
No.
So, in the last 6 months, you didn't have custody of your son.
He's never had custody.
Shh. You didn't have custody of your son. No. You were under a support order, and you didn't pay anything.
Your Honor, the reason being is because the lawyers told me that they were working to try to change the amount that I was
Yes, but
paid.
no lawyer, Mr. Akins, listen to me. No lawyer said to you, don't pay the order. No lawyer said to you, don't pay the order.
No, they didn't.
Absolutely. No, they would say, well, we'll work on it, getting it reduced, but in the meantime, you better pay it.
Something.
Shh. Do you drive a car?
No, not now, I'm not.
Did they take your driver's license?
No, ma'am.
Do you have a driver's license?
Yes, ma'am.
They will. I'm going to tell you, they won't let you get a car registered. They won't let you get a license. They won't let you get a business registered. I mean, this country doesn't fool around with child support anymore. You had better pay your child support.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's a liar. You can tell that he's a liar. If you listen to him, he couldn't even get his story straight. He is a liar.
She's lying.
And later today,
the car was gone. We got there with all his stuff in it.
So where is all of his stuff now?
They sold it with the car.
You're old enough to drive a car. You're supposed to use your brains.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nana Gail Akins and her husband Leonard Akins are separated. Nana Gail says Leonard owes her for her child's medical bills, daycare, and school uniforms.
Mrs. Akins, this is your lawsuit. Your lawsuit asks for things that should have been covered under the support order that was made. If it was not, and the order is an insufficient amount because you have additional expenses, your recourse is not to come to small claims court. Your recourse is to go back to the family court that made the order for $210 a month. You say it was $210, he said it was $275, whatever it is, and say this is no longer adequate for the child because I have additional expenses. Do you understand that?
I understand that, but these particular things are not covered through the child support order.
They are.
As far as
no,
the
listen
school
to me.
uniforms.
They are. Because you say they're not doesn't make it so, Mrs. Akins. They are.
$210 is not enough money to take care of a child.
Listen to me. Then that's your problem with the court that made the child support order. You have to say this is not enough money. I need, in addition to the expenses for rent and food and clothing, the child is now going to a school that requires uniforms. I have a uniform cost. I have a cost for daycare. Those would change circumstances from the time that I originally came to court to seek child support. That's what you're doing.
So he doesn't have to pay anything?
I explained it.
No,
I'm not gonna explain it again. This case is dismissed. Goodbye. Go home.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's a liar. You can tell that he's a liar. If you listen to him, he couldn't even get his story straight. He is a liar.
As far as medical bills, I have no intentions of my son being sick. She never told me anything. If it was, I would have paid him. I have a job, I work. I'm a certified police officer down in the state of Texas, in Houston. So she's lying.
He doesn't have a particular occupation. Never was a police officer. He could never even finish the class. He couldn't pass the test to even get into the academy.
And now the next case.
All parties on Carter Manzapit versus Kellogg. Step forward, please.
18-year-old student Nina Carter is suing her uncle, repair shop owner Jonathan Kellogg, 37, for selling her a car without the registration. It was impounded, and she can't get the car. Jonathan says he told her not to drive it without the papers.
You're Miss Carter?
Yes.
And Mr. Kellogg, you are her uncle.
Yes, ma'am.
Who are you?
I'm his wife.
Why don't you have a seat?
Thank you.
And you're the boyfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a seat. You wanted a car.
Right. Yes.
Your uncle sells used cars.
Yes, he does.
So he sold you a used car. What kind of car did he sell you?
A Volkswagen Scirocco.
And how much did you pay him for the car?
$450 for the car, and $300 because he painted it. $350 more because he painted the car for us.
So you gave him $800 for the car.
Yes.
And according to the complaint, he did not have the registration for the car
Right.
the time that you had seen it, and he let you take the car without proper registration.
Yes.
Did he tell you not to drive it?
No. He told us that in a couple more days that he would have the papers and we can come back and pick it up.
And he didn't say to you, don't drive the car without registration?
No.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, ma'am.
And you needed insurance for the car?
Yeah.
And you couldn't get insurance for the car.
Right.
But you and your boyfriend wanted to drive it anyway.
We just drove it back and forth to work and home.
That's driving the car, right?
But he knew that's what we needed it for.
So you drove the car without insurance and without proper registration. According to your complaint, the car got stuck. Where did it get stuck?
On the freeway.
And you were in the car with your boyfriend. Where were you going?
Home.
Home from where?
From work.
You both work in the same place?
No. I work in Walnut Creek.
So what do? You pick him up from work?
He picks me up.
So he was driving the car.
Right.
And where do you live?
In Pittsburgh.
Both of you?
Yes.
Do you live together?
Yeah.
How long had you been living together?
Well, he was just moving into our house. Like, this was like the second day that he lived with us.
Okay. So he was living with you and your mother? And the car gets stuck on the freeway. Was this at night?
Yes.
What time?
Like 12.
Midnight.
Yeah.
Very late. So you leave the car,
Right.
and what did you do?
We called his aunt, and she came.
Called-
No, my boyfriend's auntie, and she came and picked us up in Concord, where the car had broken down at.
And so you just left the car there.
Right.
So, but his aunt came to pick you up
Yes.
in her car.
Yeah.
And then what did you do?
My boyfriend called him in the morning to let him know that the car had broken down, and my uncle said that he would come and take care of everything. He would try to pick it up or whatever, fix whatever was wrong with it, and then that was the last we heard from him.
Because in the meantime, the car got impounded by the police
Yeah.
because it was just left there overnight. You tried to get the car out of impound, and you couldn't because you didn't have a registration. Right?
Yeah.
That's what this case is about. So now you're suing him, not for the $800 that you paid for the car, but you want $3,500 from him. You want to explain to me why?
Yes, because my boyfriend was in the process of moving all of his stuff into our house, everything he owned. And when the car got broken down, his aunt came and picked us up with her kids in the car because she didn't want to leave them sleeping. So we left all his stuff, intentions to go back in the morning and bring the stuff home or either get the car jumped or whatever. And the car was gone. We got there with all his stuff in it.
Why
So-
is he responsible for your stupidity and for his stupidity?
Because he never called us back. He
Maybe your
avoided
boyfriend's
us.
personal belongings weren't even in the car by the next morning. You leave a car on the freeway overnight.
We locked everything up. It was in there. When we called the tow company, they had all of the stuff in there.
So where is all of his stuff now?
They sold it with the car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So I told Nina, take the car. Do not drive the car until you get the paperwork. 'Cause
Just a second. Take the car how? Put it in your pocket and take it home?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nina Carter says her uncle Jonathan Kellogg sold her a used car without the registration. He says he told her not to drive it.
Miss Carter, according to you, your boyfriend left in the car clothes, personal belongings, jewelry, all that other kind of stuff, which is why I really asked you all these other questions before as to who picked you up, because I assume you went someplace to the nearest telephone, right?
Yeah.
So if you use your brains, if you're old enough to drive a car, you're supposed to use your brains. Your brains say, boyfriend over here's got all of his jewelry in the car. Let's just take a quick ride back a block or two or a half a mile and pick up all of his valuable stuff from the car because I don't want to leave it on the freeway overnight. So again, I'm going to repeat to you. Why should he be responsible for your stupidity?
I don't know, maybe it was just too late and we were thinking that we would get it in the morning.
Yeah, well, he's not an insurer of real good judgment. So forget about your boyfriend's personal property. It's not his fault that your boyfriend left his personal property in a freeway overnight. If your property was in the car, then you leave it for a couple of minutes, but then you come right back together and say, pick me up at the car, so I can watch my very valuable $3,500 worth of belongings. Oh. Now, why did you let her take this car without a registration?
Well, Your Honor, this is the situation. I explained to Nina and her boyfriend Rick alike. It always takes a week to 10 days to get the paperwork on these particular cars. So I told Nina, take the car, told Rick as well, do not drive the car until you get the paperwork.
Just a second, take the car how?
Take the car.
Put it
well,
in your
the car
pocket
had,
and take it home?
It was registered.
Just a second. Take the car how? Put it in your pocket and take
No,
it home?
No, ma'am. The car...
So she had to drive the car?
Yes, the car was currently registered. It had current tags, but it wasn't registered to them. So that's the only thing they had to do, is get the paperwork turned in their name. And they could have taken the car home, because it was registered, and parked the car until they got the proper paperwork to change into their name.
Mr. Kellogg.
Yes, ma'am.
What would have happened if they had an accident on the way going home?
Okay, well...
You're not talking about tags. You're talking about everything that flows from that, Mr. Kellogg. You're talking about the ability to register a car and to get insurance. Talking about the reason why car dealers don't let you take a car out until they get a little form from your insurance company that the car is actually covered by insurance. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So that in case there's an accident, innocent people don't suffer for somebody else's stupidity. Now, you made a big mistake.
Yes, ma'am.
Because she's a young girl.
I realize that.
And they're not always very smart.
No, I realize that,
As you can tell
Your
from
Honor.
leaving all this jewelry in a car, if I believed it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
So it was about 2 weeks, you say, that you drove the car before it was towed.
Exactly.
And another 2 weeks, you say, until you got the paperwork.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, your 7 to 10 days, sir, turned into a month.
Well, it did.
Exactly.
It did. It was 21 days. She brought it to my attention how long it had been in the impound. But
so it was in the pound for 21 days. So it was more than a month. It was almost a month and a half
It was 20
that you didn't have
it was 21
proper
days.
papers for
yes,
her.
Yes, ma'am.
And at that time, how much did they want to get the car out of impound?
They wanted, I think, $70 for the lien, $80 for the tow, and like $600 and something for just keeping it there. And then they told me if I wanted to get the personal belongings out, I have to bring them the title to the car keys, and $200 in cash.
So it would have cost you more to get the car out
Then we paid for it.
than you paid for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And you know whose fault that is?
Yes, ma'am.
Yours.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, that's good. See how easy that was? You assured her when she purchased the car that she would have these papers within a reasonable period of time, 7 to 10
Yes, I
days.
did.
She didn't have that within 7 to 10 days. You are certainly not responsible for their stupidity in leaving the stuff in the car, whatever they left in the car. That was their problem. They should have taken it out of the car before they left the car there overnight. But it was because of you, sir,
Yes, ma'am.
that they did not have the proper papers in order to get this car out in a
true.
timely fashion. And certainly they weren't going to pay both for the car and $800-900 to get the car out of impound. So you are entitled to the money for the car back. That's $800. That's what you paid for it. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff for $800, not $3,500, but $800. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties
Your
are
Honor.
excused. You may step out. Back door to your right, please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy,
This sweater has beady eyes.
the case of the phony Beanie Babies.
You buy it as is, when is, where is, with no warning.
Please, give me a break.
Judge Judy Justice.
That's my favorite uncle. I love him and my auntie very much.
I love my niece very much, and I do the same thing for most of the family, all my friends. They know me for, hooking them up with little cheap hoopties.
I didn't even know they were buying the car until they brought the car home. And if I had known, believe me, I would have stopped the process, because he is known for selling hoopties to my nieces and nephews. And I've preached from the time they were small, don't buy a car from Uncle Johnny. And I was shocked when they brought it home, believe me.
I hope this haven't dampened my career as the hoopty salesman in Oakland.
Party's on Gallardo versus Sachs. Step forward, please.
37-year-old furniture store manager Mark Gallardo says his former fiancée, Renee Sachs, 41, won't return his personal items and money she owes him. Renee is countersuing for rent.
All rise. Order. Your Honor, this is case number 271 on the calendar in the matter of Gallardo versus Sachs. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
You two dated for a while. You're no longer dating. Now that you're no longer dating, each of you claim that the other owes you $5,000 for a variety of things. Why don't you tell me what you think she owes you $5,000 for?
Well, when I moved on out, the next day I went over there with a U-Haul with an escort and packed up all my stuff, left. Going through my stuff at home, I noticed that there was a couple items that were missing.
Like what?
My stereo that's in her car.
Okay.
You know, my daughter's graduation pictures, some framed pictures that I left from like Arizona and Yosemite and stuff. Pewtered picture frames.
Those the picture frames that Yosemite is in?
No, these are separate ones that actually her and me were in, that I bought.
For me.
Go ahead.
Anyway, you know, flashlights, cameras.
What kind of cameras?
Canon camera,
A
waterproof.
Canon camera you left there?
Yep, and a Polaroid.
And a Polaroid camera. What else?
Well, an electric steamer, just, you know, little things.
An electric steamer?
Right.
You mean to steam vegetables?
To steam vegetables.
Go ahead.
The cords to my electric razor and my beard trimmer. Stainless steel frying pan.
You left the beard trimmer there, or you left the cords to the beard trimmer?
The cords.
To the beard trimmer.
And my electric razor.
What else?
There was some furniture that was left there that after I decided, because I was upset when I moved on out because I had no reason why she acted the way she did, so I rewrote another letter saying that she can have certain items, you know, and keep them there.
What? Let's run that by me again. You were upset, so after you were upset, you wrote her a letter, and you said in the letter you can keep certain items.
That's
right?
correct.
Which items?
That she could keep?
Yeah.
Well, like the bed that I gave her daughter.
Any of these items that you just outlined that you left behind?
No, there's more. There's about, you know, 36 items that I left there.
Your Honor, I have a list of all these items, and I put on there whether it was a gift to myself or my daughter, and whether the other court, when I got a restraining order, asked me to write him a certified letter, went to pick his stuff up in my driveway, and it sat there for 2 hours, and he never showed up. And if these are valuable things that he thinks he really needs, he should have been there to pick them up.
What
I'm
about
more than
this?
willing to give them back.
Oh, okay. Do you have his beard trimmer?
Don't. No, don't even need it.
What about, do you leave cameras, 2 cameras there?
I found 1 camera in my car, and then I didn't know the Polaroid was there. I said he never left it. He must have taken it because it was always in his drawer, and then I found it last Sunday.
So you have
it is there, and it's packed with his other things ready for him to have. I do not want his things.
Fine, so you have all those things. Why didn't you go and pick them up?
She never responded.
I responded. His mother signed for the letter.
So
2
just
days.
a second. So is that the reason why these things are still outstanding? Because you say she never responded to your letter.
She never responded to
Fine.
to
So
either
we'll
letter.
make an arrangement within 7 days of today's date for you to go and pick up all your stuff.
Okay. But
Fine.
Now there's a matter of monies.
Well, so now let's talk about the money.
Okay. When I met Renee, she was way in debt with about 22 credit cards.
Don't talk to her. Talk to me.
So we arranged a solution to the problem of combining all her credit cards to the lowest interest rate. You know, during this time, she goes out and purchases a 50-inch television.
Whatever she purchased, how do you get involved with that? Don't tell me about her spending.
I loaned her money to put onto her credit card.
How much money did you loan her?
Altogether, about $1,400.
According to your complaint, you only loaned her 7 and 5. It was $1,200.
That wasn't a loan, Your Honor.
You said you gave her $500 at one point when you got a commission check or something?
I loaned her $700 at that
Right,
time.
I have the $700 when you got a commission
She
check.
even wrote out the check for it.
Yeah, and what else?
A couple days before my father died, my stepfather, he gave me a gift of $500.
Right.
Right. I turned around and loaned that to her to put onto her Visa
That's what you
card.
say in your complaint.
Because
Right.
we both used
Just a second. That's
Okay.
7 and 5,
7 and 5.
right?
And then I put down $100 towards this 50-inch television that she purchased with no payments until 1999.
Well, when you put that $100 down for her, what did you say to her, sir?
I said, "Here's the loan for the to the television."
No.
You said, here's the loan on
No,
the
he did
television?
not.
Yes.
No.
No, he did
Okay,
not.
so
Have it
that's
written
what you
on
say
the
she
check.
owes you. You say she owes you 7, 5, and $100 for the television set.
Plus, there's a matter of there's a shop that my mom shops at, and that we went there, and she purchased some stuff that I got on a credit due to the fact that she's my
I
mother.
didn't purchase that.
Just a second. Yeah.
You know, well, I have one of the garments here.
Just a second,
Okay,
sir.
I can't do anything with a size 4 tailored fit jumpsuit.
Just a second.
You know,
What does this have to do with money she owes you?
well, she still owes $240 because she still has stuff that is sitting there.
What does that have to do with you?
Because I have to pay the bill.
He bought me those things, Your
Just
Honor.
a second. You have to pay the bill?
Yeah, I paid the bill.
Well, let me hear how that happened. You took her
Well-
into a store and she said, I want to buy clothes. Would you put it on your bill?
No.
No.
No. So how did it happen? Come, talk to me.
How did it happen?
Yeah.
We went there and she was looking around. She saw this jumpsuit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she said, "Can I have it?" I said, "Sure." You know, she had it custom fit for her, and then
Right.
she threw them back at me the night when she moved on out. What am I supposed to do with two jumpsuits that don't fit me? They ain't gonna fit anybody that I know. They're custom fit for her. So, you know, I think she ought to pay for them. You know, plus she
Can
had
I have that? Sure. Have it fit for you. What should you do with it?
She
Hopefully your
wore it.
next girlfriend will be a size 4.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She bought me a shirt.
She bought you a shirt.
Yeah.
He wanted it.
It was a
Were you
gift.
together? Just a second, were you together?
was
Yes,
a
we were.
gift.
Up. Answer, Mike. Were you together?
Yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mark Gallardo says his former fiancée, Renee Sachs, won't return his personal items and money she owes him. Renee is countersuing for rent.
All right, now let me hear, Ms. Sachs, let me hear about this $700 check that he gave you and this $500 check that he gave you.
There's no check that I received for $700. He wrote a check to my Visa for $700, and I was not behind on that.
So, did you both purchase items on that
Yes.
Visa?
Yes. I have.
Let me see, for
I
instance,
have
what he
something here that you
purchased.
can see everything that is.
Don't give me everything.
No, okay, then I
I
won't.
don't want everything. I just want you to show me on this particular Visa bill where he paid the $700 some items that were purchased solely by him.
Can I show you the check that she wrote out on my checking account?
Yeah, so what? Listen to me. If two people are living together, they're
Oh, I
engaged to
did
be
that.
married. Shh. And they are using a credit card, and the credit card happens to be in one person's name. And if you're both using the credit card for joint things, going out for dinner, you're buying things for your home, those things are joint things. So that would be a rationale for you to pay part of this bill. I have to see what those items were. So can I please see them? Don't show me the whole folder. Open it up. Take out a page or two, show me where he made a $700 payment, and show me the charges for the 2 months before the $700 payment.
Your Honor.
Just a second, don't speak.
Okay.
Just follow directions. Find where he made the $700 payment and give me 2 months' bills itemized on that Visa for items that were purchased. I can read. Just find it.
Judge Judy, can I say something? Okay.
Say nothing. Is that it?
Yeah,
Thank you.
most of the yellow highlights are either we were going to split those or it was his solely.
All right, I have a $700 payment, so I assume that's the payment we're talking about. That looked like July.
July, yes.
July. Okay. Did you eat together at Sabella and La Torre in San Francisco? Mr. Gallardo,
Yeah, because I won tickets for The King and I, and she ended
That
up.
was in
Just a
April, Your Honor.
second.
She ended up renting a room at the Hyatt Regency.
I'm not talking about the Hyatt, sir. I asked you if you had a meal at this restaurant.
It was inside the Hyatt, yes.
No, Your Honor, that's not what that is.
Just a second. What do you care? He says yes.
That's another time.
Doesn't make
There's
any
difference.
difference. He said yes. He ate there.
He did.
This is an indicia of whether these are joint bills or whether these are just her bills.
How much was that for?
$67.13. Encore travel, $59.95. What is that for?
That's for a discount card that Mark said it would be a good idea that we would get for going whatever outings we were doing. We would save money.
I never saw a card.
Oh, okay.
There are 2 of those, Your Honor.
You better stop getting credit cards, lady. I mean, look at your file, right?
what her
Got more
desk
credit
looks
cards
like.
than I do. Natural Wonders, San Jose, California, for a shirt.
Natural Wonders for a
Yeah.
shirt. Yeah, she bought me a shirt.
She bought you a shirt.
Yeah, it's a wolf.
Okay.
He wanted it.
No, she
Yeah.
bought it for. She bought
Just
it for
a second.
me. It was a
Were
gift.
you together? Just a second. Were you together?
It was
Yes,
a
we were.
gift.
Up. Answer, Mike. Were you together?
Yes.
Dr. Jelnick. Mm-hmm. Is that your doctor?
Who?
That's mine.
That's yours. Well, you've got that highlighted, $4,500.
Right.
Yeah.
We agreed before going into that he would pay half that bill.
No,
he
I
said
didn't.
he could not afford the whole thing, but he could afford
sorry.
half of it. And therefore, I put it on a credit
I was
card.
happy the way she was before she went and got a breast
You're so
enlargement.
full of it.
Just a second. Hey, just a second.
She puts it on her visa?
Just a second.
Seemed like a good idea at the time, right, Mark?
Nope.
Listen to me, Miss Sachs. That's your bill. Because any woman that has surgery because a guy wants it, it's got to be missing a few. Here's another $500 for the same doctor. So this thing cost you $5,000?
Yes.
With all your bills, you spent money on this?
I can go
All
through
Parts Auto Store, $116. What's that for?
her tune-up on her car. It's her car.
Your Honor, I drove him to work every day for 10 months, 19.4 miles one way.
Your choice.
Because he lost his driver's license due to drunk driving and expressed to me that he didn't drink any longer. Which
Fitness
turned out
Quest.
to be...
Fitness Quest. What is that?
Some exercise thing that she
What is
ordered.
that?
No, that's not true. That's diet. That's some diet plan. We both went in on that, and I have it right here that he is half of that. I took
Diet
responsibility
plan?
for half of it.
What kind of diet plan?
Some
on.
capsules.
Oh, BioSlim, and she was
Okay.
taking them.
And you didn't take any?
No, I didn't take darn one of them.
Okay, let's get to your counterclaim. Piece of nonsense. All right, Miss Sachs, you want to tell me about your counterclaim, please?
Yes. Okay, Your Honor. In October, Mark and I agreed that he would pay half of my rent, which is $800 a month. He was staying at my house since September. My roommate pays her rent separately. The 3 of us agreed that he would pay 1/3 of the PG&E and 1/3 of the water, and then we each have our own phone, so he would pay half of my phone bill. I have months here that he did pay rent and then did not pay rent. He paid PG&E. He paid 1/3 of the PG&E once in 10 months.
So why didn't you kick him out?
I loved him. We were working toward what I thought was a common goal, Your Honor.
And now you broke up. And the common goal was you each were supposed to get your credit cleared up and do whatever you could to get your credit cleared up so that when you started your life together, it would be with a better credit. Is that right? Is that right?
That's what I was trying to do for her.
You were doing nothing for me, Mark.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
She ruined single-handedly my birthday.
It happens.
closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Mark Gallardo says his former fiancée, Renee Sachs, won't return his personal items and money she owes him. Renee is countersuing for rent.
Miss Sachs, what I'm telling you both is it's over. Put a period. Move on with your life. Right?
Right.
She doesn't owe you any money, and you don't owe her any money. Neither one of you owes anybody any money. You lived in the house for 10 months. She said you didn't pay all the rent you were supposed to pay. She didn't kick you out because you really weren't a tenant. And she wouldn't have if you got married, said to you on your wedding night, by the way, you owe me $4,500 for my rent. I guarantee it. Miss Sachs, don't speak. And as far as you're concerned, sir, that outfit that you bought, that's a present. You paid certain monies towards her credit cards. You used certain monies on those credit cards, even if they were joint things. As far as the things that you left in the house is concerned, she's prepared to return those things to you. She has them. They are itemized. All you have to do is go and get them. Now, when do you want to get them?
ASAP.
Give me a date. 5 days from today?
That'd be good.
Tomorrow? Can you be there tomorrow?
No,
Speak to me, Miss Sachs. Don't speak to him.
Your Honor,
Can
tomorrow
he be
would
there?
Good for me.
I'm sorry, I'm in
I
LA
need this
for a
to
day
be
on
over
business.
with.
Okay, let's make it 4 business days from today. Do you need anybody else there when this transfer
Yes,
of
I'd like
property
him
is
to have a
made?
police escort, as I have a restraining order against him for his violence.
Fine, we will draw up an order indicating that he
who's
will
violent.
retrieve his items 4 business days from today with a police escort. Thank you very much. That's
Thank
all.
you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I took a big loss in this relationship. I had hope that, you know, oh well.
I hope she does good in her life because, you know, I mean, I actually still love her.
It's a shame that it happened. I was looking forward to having Renee as a daughter-in-law. And her daughter is a sweetie.
Yeah, she really is.
I miss her.
And now the next case.
All parties on Barnett versus Hannon. Step forward, please.
38-year-old Social Security rep Tori Barnett claims delivery agent Jacqueline Hannum owes her for a Mexican vacation and embarrassing her with an old boyfriend.
Okay, fast case. You used to be good friends according to this complaint.
Yes.
You were having a birthday.
Yes,
You were
ma'am.
celebrating that birthday by going with some friends to Rosarita Beach.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is in Mexico.
Yes, ma'am.
You wanted your friend to go with you.
That's correct.
She couldn't afford the tickets, etc., so you agreed to advance the money. So far, correct?
Yes.
You advanced $150 for the bus fare and for her share of a motel room or a hotel room,
Yes.
and you promised to pay her back.
Yes.
And you acknowledge that you promised to pay her back and that you have not.
Yes.
So that's $150. Problem is you are suing for $5,000 because you say that during the course of this trip to Rosarita Beach, there was some sort of an indiscretion with either a boyfriend or an ex-boyfriend of yours
Yes.
by the defendant.
Correct.
And you were humiliated.
Correct.
This was a boyfriend of yours?
No.
An ex-boyfriend?
That's correct.
So you want $4,850 for your humiliation.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Most states have done away with alienation of affection suits, even as regard to married people. This was not even a case of a marriage, wasn't even a case of a boyfriend. This was an ex-boyfriend.
Correct.
She owes you the $150.
Yes, she does.
The fact that you were annoyed, humiliated, you felt as if she violated a trust.
Correct.
You know, that's a thing that breaks up friendships. It doesn't amount to a lawsuit. Why would you think it amounts to a lawsuit?
She ruined single-handedly my birthday. She did.
It happens.
Yes, it does.
You don't get compensated for that. You may say goodbye to your friend. You certainly say goodbye to the ex-boyfriend. But you don't sue in court for that. In any event, you acknowledge that you owe her $150.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you paid any portion of it?
I have not paid, no.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $150. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I feel very grateful that the friendship has been dissolved.
She's upset, she's angry, and that's fine. I acknowledge that.
Friendships are based on trust, and I believe and I feel wholeheartedly that she violated that trust.
We're no longer friends. It ended after the trip, so. And we just move on, that's all.
Parties on Munoz Villapando, step forward, please.
Nadine Munoz is suing her former fiancé, Andy Villapando, for the money she put toward her engagement ring because he cheated on her. Andy says since Nadine bought her own ring, he's not responsible.
Order, all rise. Your Honor, this is case number 288 on the calendar in the matter of Munoz versus Villapando. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Well, this is a new twist on an engagement ring case. Ms. Munoz, according to your complaint, you went shopping with this gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
You were becoming engaged, is that right?
Yes. Yes.
According to you, you picked out a ring that you liked.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have any money or any credit.
None whatsoever.
So you put your ring on your credit card.
Exactly.
First mistake.
Exactly. Exactly.
In addition to that, you say he charged some tires on a credit card for tires on a credit card of yours without your permission. To make a long story short, you're here, so that means you're no longer engaged.
Exactly. We are no longer engaged. We're no longer in speaking terms whatsoever.
And so tell me what you want from him.
I want him to pay half of the engagement ring that he gave me, that we both went together to go get. I have the appraisal. I also have the appraisal on the ring.
I'm not interested in the appraisal.
Okay.
I'm interested in the bill of sale.
Okay.
Where is it?
I have the bill of sale.
Can I have it, please? Okay. 26/27/94.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how long did this love affair last after the ring was bought?
Not long.
How long?
Till May 31st.
Well, when was the ring purchased?
February 23rd.
So.
But I had no. I'm sorry, Your Honor, but I didn't walk out of the relationship. He did. He walked out.
I assume you weren't getting along?
It wasn't going anywhere, and so, but I tried to work it out. He didn't want to, so therefore he walked out.
Well, that's probably a good idea, right?
Yes, but he left me with the bill, and I thought that because of his promise that he made, that he was going to pay for part of the ring, I expected that in return.
Now I'm going to ask you this question. Why didn't you take the ring back to the jeweler?
I did. They would not give me my money back. They asked for credit, and I said, okay, fine. I then called Mr. Villapando and asked him, look, I don't want you to be without anything, and I don't want to be without anything. Therefore, you get $1,500 worth of the ring, and I'll get $1,500 worth. And I did call him on that, because I no longer want the ring. I told Mr. Villapando
So why
that I
didn't
didn't
you
want
sell it?
I tried. You know how hard it is to sell a ring? I've tried for the months that went by. I've tried to sell that ring, and I can't.
Okay. Now, sir, you acknowledge, let's get rid of the tire question.
Okay.
Okay? Because I don't think that you deny that you signed her name and that you bought the tires, correct?
On the credit card for the tires, correct.
All right. And the tires were $330?
Correct.
Did you pay her back?
I paid her $315, so I owe her $15.
No,
Let me see.
My first payment was made cash, and I got 2 check duplicates. If you need to subpoena my bank records.
I don't subpoena anything, sir.
Okay.
I'm not your lawyer. I'm the judge.
Your Honor, on those checks that he gave me, that was part of the rent and the electric bills that he left me stuck with because he did not pay for anything. Everything is under my name in that apartment because Mr. Villapando, again, has no credit whatsoever. He claimed bankruptcy in the beginning of January.
Did you leave her with any bills when you left?
No, ma'am. I used to bring my checks, and she's the one that took care of the finances.
That's not true. That's not true. We did both of our finances together. We did both of them together. He couldn't write the check on the apartment because of the fact that it was not leased under his name.
Okay. Now, sir, do you have any payments that you made to her in June of '97?
The only payments I made to her, ma'am, are those 2 and the one cash payment I made before those 2.
All right, so now I understand this. Would you give this back?
Sure.
Tires. You owe her $330. Now, let's get to the ring. Tell me about the ring, because your story was an interesting one, sir.
Well, on the ring, we had an agreement, yes, that she was going to allow me to charge a ring so I can get her because of my credit past from a divorce that pretty much ruined my credit. Anyways, I went out and I found a ring that I wanted to get her, and I took her to the store, and she pretty much made me feel about this little because the ring wasn't nice enough, big enough, and gaudy enough, and she specifically told me it had to be bigger than my ex-wife's. And I believe the ring was almost 2 carats as it was, and my ex-wife was only like 1 carat.
Your Honor.
So,
Sir, listen to me.
yes, ma'am.
Very nice ring. It's not 2 carats.
Correct.
This is not 2 carats.
Correct.
Okay. So, go ahead. So
And
you took her to the store, and you found a ring that you liked.
I found a ring. As a matter of fact, they were even having a big sale, so it was like a real good deal, everything. And she did not want it. It wasn't what she wanted and stuff like that. And to me, I felt like, you know, I'm buying it as a gift. You should appreciate what I'm getting you. And that's
So what happened? So you were at the store, and
So
she
we're at
doesn't
the
like
store.
the ring.
She didn't like it, and so we didn't get a ring that day. And she decided she wanted to get a ring that she would like.
But you went with her again to find a ring that she liked.
Correct.
Okay.
And when she finally discovered the ring that she wanted, she asked me what I thought of it, and I told her it's up to her. And that's where it went, and she bought it and signed for it.
But you also promised that you were going to pay for half of it, or actually pay for the gift because it was a gift coming from you, considering the fact that you wanted to get engaged, Andy. You did.
My agreement, I'm sorry.
Your agreement was what?
My agreement was that I was going to pay for the ring that I was going to get her, not something that she didn't approve of or like and wanted.
No, that doesn't make sense, my friend. That doesn't make sense, my friend. Now it makes sense to you. Now it's a good story. Now I can understand that you went and found a ring, a little too small, not exactly what she wanted. She said she'd like something else. You went shopping with her again because I assume at that point you were still in love and you were planning on getting married. And at that point, I assume you wanted her to be happy with the ring. That's why you went with her again. Doesn't look like anybody drags you any place where you don't want to go. And I assume that if the relationship had progressed and you married, that you would have made payments on this engagement ring that you gave her.
It probably would have came out of a joint checking account, yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I can't pay a $3,000 ring on my income, and I know he probably couldn't do it either, but it was something that he promised to pay, and it was a gift from him.
And later today,
I lost my best friend. I stole 2 rings from her, knowing what I was doing, and I took him to a drug dealer to pay off the debt.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 27-year-old Nadine Munoz claims her former fiancé, 27-year-old Andy Villapando, cheated on her. So she's suing to recover the money she put toward her own engagement ring.
So what you have is a very interesting scenario, Miss Munoz. The ring should go back to him because it is an engagement ring.
Okay, I don't mind him having the ring as long as he pays the account.
Now, when you made this deal with him, was he supposed to pay for the whole ring?
He was supposed to, he made a verbal promise that he was going to pay for the whole ring. But when I brought him to court, I was being very noble by paying half.
Okay. Well, this was an engagement ring. Women don't pay for their own engagement rings unless they're crazy. She doesn't sound to me like she's crazy. And my sense is that at least at the time that she purchased this ring on her credit, it was something that you intended to pay for because it was an engagement ring. That's what happens. A man buys a woman an engagement ring. The fact that she didn't like the first ring, sir, that's not an excuse. That's just a good story that you made up, that you were willing to pay for the first one but not the second one, because that's pretty much what you're telling me. And if you weren't willing to pay for the second one, then you wouldn't have and shouldn't have gone shopping with her for a second one. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, this whole ring was $2,627.94. And, sir, I don't think you paid it for the tires at all. So, Mr. Munoz, you just bought yourself a beautiful engagement ring and 4 new tires for the total price of $2,957.94. Judgment for the plaintiff in that amount. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'll back up to your right.
I wanted friendship afterwards, and I stated it strongly with him that I wanted friendship, but I didn't want to be lied to like he lied to me.
I'm sorry this all happened.
No problem.
And now the next case.
Party's on. Golda versus Greer. Step forward, please.
37-year-old Laura Golder is suing her best friend of 15 years, 31-year-old Liza Greer, claiming she stole 2 rings to pay off a drug dealer.
Ms. Greer, I'm going to start with you. Because, quite frankly, I don't think that the facts in this case are really in dispute. You two ladies were friends for a very long time.
15 years.
And, Ms. Greer, you acknowledge that there was a period of time when you had a severe drug problem, correct?
Yes, and alcohol.
And you were indebted to a drug dealer for some money.
Correct.
How much money did you owe him?
Well, at the time I owed him about $375, give or take a few.
And you were pretty strung out.
Yes.
She was your dear friend.
Yes.
So you stole 2 rings from her.
Yes, I did.
And you gave one of the rings to the dealer.
Actually, I gave both of the rings to the dealer for collateral, and I was hoping to get him money because he was threatening my life, and he was a very dangerous man, and I was very frightened. And I was sober at the time, but that evening I relapsed from the stress, and I drank. And when I went over to my girlfriend's house where she was, we were together and consoling me, that evening I did something completely out of the ordinary, something I'm very upset about, I'm very remorseful for. I lost my best friend. I stole 2 rings from her, knowing what I was doing, and I took them to a drug dealer to pay off the debt. And when I tried to get them back, he wouldn't give them to me. And the next day I turned myself into the police, and I told them what happened and what I did.
When did you find the rings missing?
The morning that she left my apartment.
How'd you feel?
Extremely upset.
Did you try to contact her?
I contacted her mother and her sister and told them what happened, and they said call the police.
You got one of the rings back?
Yes.
The other one you did not?
Yes, correct.
What did he do, sell it or dispose of it in some way?
We don't know. He's saying he's innocent, and, we can't talk to him. I can't get the rings back, but I want to pay her back. I just that I don't have a lot.
How did you get the one ring back?
That's kind of on her part, and I'm not talking to her right now, so you need to ask.
The police have it as evidence.
But they're holding it, so that one you have. The only dispute in this case is to the value of the ring. How much did you pay for the ring?
$7,000. I have the receipts and all the appraisal and everything right here.
I'm not interested in the appraisal, just the receipt, how much you paid for it. You bought this ring at a very upscale store. And there were 2 pieces of fine jewelry that you bought. One was for $7,000, one is for $2,500. What were the 2 pieces that you bought?
The $7,000 was the ring, and the $2,500 was the earrings to go with it.
And you have the earrings?
Yes.
Just a lot of money to spend on a ring, but...
Did you notice it was a charge card? I like to live over my means. I like to have what I like.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It was either taking your jewelry or going out and mugging somebody or getting killed herself. Because, drug dealers are despicable pun scum.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Liza Greer admits to stealing 2 rings, but says they are worth thousands less than Laura Golder claims.
Miss Greer, I'm going to let you tell me in your own words what your defense is to this lawsuit.
Okay. I'm not saying that I don't owe her the money because I took the rings. I'm taking responsibility for it. I've done everything I can and my possible means of helping her get the ring back and going to court, turning myself in. I just feel that the designer for the ring is what I'd be paying for and not the value of the diamonds and the gold. I just feel it would be, it's just ridiculous to pay for a designer. It's not ridiculous, but it's just, $7,000 for a designer when the actual ring is only worth
Liza,
$3,000.
that's what I paid for the ring, though.
Shh. Let me tell you this. What you're suggesting is as follows. If somebody steals a Renoir, you know what that is?
Yes.
And says, well, I'm prepared to pay for the canvas and for the paint that was used. But I'm not prepared to pay $5 million for this painting. I mean, because after all this painting is a canvas and some paint. I don't have to pay for the designer Renoir, after all. She went to a store that is a high-end store. I'm not even going to mention the store.
Shall I?
No. But I want to tell you something. Anybody that buys a piece of jewelry in this high-end store, what I'm telling you is you're entitled to do with your money whatever you want to do with it. But I saw a picture of the ring. It's a nice little ring. Is all
Really
of it put
nice
together
ring.
worth $7,000? Who knows? But that's what she paid for it. And you stole it. And she doesn't have it back. And she's entitled to be made whole. Because whatever it is, she's out $7,000 and she doesn't have her ring because of you.
I know.
So, I mean, the limit of my jurisdiction is $5,000. She understood that when she came to this court, right?
Yes.
You've been in treatment?
Yes, I've been sober ever since.
How long?
It's 2.5 months now.
It's not a long time.
No, but it's still longer than I had 2.5 months ago.
I know.
And I'm also on Prozac, and I've been with a psychiatrist, and it was a very sobering experience. And I'm pregnant, so it's devastating to me what I've done. And I lost my best friend.
Doesn't sound as if this was a great year for you. Next year will be better.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Miss Golder.
Yes.
She hasn't had a good time. She brought it about by herself. She knows that. I have a feeling that she understands that. You've been a friend for a long time. I'm going to give you your $5,000. I absolutely believe that you are entitled to that. I think Miss Greer believes that you're entitled to that, too. She feels terrible. I am quite sure that when you woke up in the morning and found your jewelry missing and realized who took your jewelry, you felt devastated.
That she would do something like that to me.
Right. She was really, at that point, I honestly believe, pushed to the wall, and she didn't know what to do. It was either taking your jewelry or going out and mugging somebody or getting killed herself. Because, you know, drug dealers can be, not can be, are despicable pun scum. And they can be deadly despicable pun scum. So she was afraid. That doesn't excuse her. But if she's sober, and I believe that she is because she's been very honest with me otherwise, she probably could use all the support she can get. Well, Miss Greer, you have a responsibility now that is far beyond a responsibility to yourself.
I know.
And if you ever think of relapsing, I suggest that you take yourself a visit to a
Rehab.
local hospital.
Right.
And go into the neonatal intensive care unit and see what a baby looks like when they're born with heroin or cocaine withdrawal.
Right.
I guarantee you that that will be a more sobering experience than the one you had here. Got it?
That.
All right. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff
Thank
in the
you.
amount of $5,000.
I'm sorry,
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You can step out. I'll be back to you right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I could go to jail. You know, I mean, right now, you know, I could go to jail. You know, I just don't, I never thought I was that kind of a person. The one thing that I think that Judge Judy gave me back was my friend. You know, I mean, because you know, she wasn't even speaking to me before. You know, to me, the value of her friendship is worth more than the money itself. And I did something wrong, and you know, this is a lesson that had to be learned.
I always forgive her. I always forgive her. Yeah. I'm sorry, Laura. I know, honey.
Thank you very much for your time. Best of luck.
Thank you, Judge Judy.
Parties on Standoff versus Jefferson. Step forward, please.
19-year-old sales clerk Rachel Stanhoff says her ex-boyfriend Joseph Jefferson owes her money he borrowed to buy car rims.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, it's case number 335 on the calendar in the matter of Stanhoff versus Jefferson. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Gentlemen.
This was your boyfriend. How long had you known each other?
About 2.5 years, almost 3 now.
And you're not together anymore.
Correct.
While you were together, he used your credit card to buy rims for his car.
Correct.
And you say, sir, that it was a gift of love.
Yep. Yes.
So, Miss Stanhoff, why don't you tell me about this rimming?
We were together about 2.5 years, and we ended up breaking up for about 6 to 9 months. We moved in together as roommates. He needed to purchase some rims. He then put $500 down, wrote a check to West Coast Motorsports in Garden Grove, and then proceeded to tell me that that he needed to have the other $1,300 to pay on the rims, or else he was going to lose his $500. So I went down with him. In return, he said that he would pay me back in full. He had gave me a Vaughn's credit card, or I'm sorry, credit union card. Told me that actually there was $30 taken out of his check every week that I could take out to pay the bill back.
So you broke up, he's got the rims and you got the bill. Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
Go.
Okay, well, we broke up. We moved back in together. We were living there for about a week, and she usually takes me out shopping, buying me stuff whenever I want, when we get in fights or something. And she offered to buy me some rims for my car. She paid for them.
Why would she take you out shopping if you have a fight?
That's how she is. Whenever I got mad at her, we got in a fight, she bought me stuff. And she has a record of always, every time we break up, trying to take something back from me. And that's why, like, when we got back together that time, for like 3 years, she made me sign a contract saying that, it was a contract, it was made in 5/30/95, saying that anything, the first thing on there says, whatever you bought me is mine if we break up no matter what. And she signed it and dated it, everything. So that's how she always goes to that stuff. Buys me stuff and then wants to take it back when we break up. When we went to buy the rims, I wrote the check for $500 and she paid the rest with the credit cards. There was no agreement. He was there with me when we bought it. It was us 3 there. We went there. There's no agreement that I had to pay back, nothing. The reason she got my cash card is
Just a second. Who has the car?
The card?
Car!
No, I sold it.
With the rims?
Yes.
How much after she paid for the rims did you sell the car?
I sold it for $18,500.
Well, I didn't ask you that question, but that's an interesting answer.
How much longer?
What?
How much longer? Just
What word in English didn't you understand?
You said how much the car 3 months ago.
How much after you put the rims on the car did you sell it was my question. You said $18,000, which isn't exactly
2
an
months.
answer, but I'll take it.
2 months.
Had you already broken up with her at the time?
Yeah.
So why didn't you give her back the money for the rims from the car?
Because they were a gift. That's like
what?
They were a gift. That's like I bought her rings and stuff. Am I supposed to take everything back that I bought her?
Let me explain something
That's not
to you,
right.
sir. There's a difference between a ring, a piece of jewelry, a watch, a shirt, a tie, a pair of rollerblades. There's a difference between that and 4 rims for your car.
There's no difference. It's material.
How old are you?
20.
Where do you live?
In Hawaiian Gardens.
Who do you live with?
My grandma.
Your grandmother?
Yes.
Where do your parents live?
Just, I don't know. I don't talk to my parents.
You don't know, you don't talk to them?
Yes.
For how long?
For a while. All my life.
What do you mean all your life?
All my life. Like
You mean
said.
you've always lived with your grandmother?
Yes.
Is it your mother's mother or your father's mother?
Mom's.
Does she talk to her daughter?
Yes.
You ever been arrested, Mr. Jefferson?
Nah. Nope.
Where do you work?
I don't work now.
Why?
Because I quit. Because I lost my license.
What license?
Driver's license.
Why?
For speeding.
How many times?
3.
And you were never arrested, sir?
No, I never arrested, no.
And what kind of car was this that you sold for $18,000?
97 Mitsubishi Eclipse.
How'd you buy it?
Financed it.
What kind of work were you doing when you financed it?
I worked for UPS in Vaughn's.
And what happened to those jobs?
I had to lose them because of her.
You lost your UPS job because of her? How did she cause you to lose your UPS job?
See, that's how it started. When she broke into my box and she stole my car keys and my checkbooks, all this stuff, and she stole my car from UPS one night because I worked midnight shift. I go in 3 to 9, and I came out, my car wasn't there, and then I came back and it was moved somewhere else. She stole my car, and I couldn't keep letting my car go out. She always threatened me, saying that all my friends they're gonna steal your car, take the rims off, steal your radio. And then Vaughn's, she went in there harassing me all the time. My boss complained to me.
So she wanted the money back for the rims or the rims right from the beginning?
Nah, it's not for the money. It's for the love. She missed me. She wanted me still.
Oh, my God. God help her if that's what she wanted. How old are you?
19.
Who do you live with?
My grandmother.
Where are your parents?
My parents are in Norco. I talk to them once a week.
Where?
Norco, North Corona.
And why don't you live at home?
Because it's too far for me to commute now.
Have you ever met his parents?
I've met his mother.
When?
I've met her a few times during the 2.5 years that we were together. I've seen her probably about a year ago. I saw her.
When you saw them, was he there?
Yeah. He's the one that introduced me to her.
Does that sound familiar to you, sir?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
So it's not that you haven't spoken to your parents or your mother?
I don't talk to them.
Oh, God.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You are a 20-year-old unemployed person who takes from young women because he thinks that he's God's gift. I mean, you're not even good looking.
And later today,
we said to them we're missing a day of work. They know the money that we do make when we work.
Well, if you're topless entertainers and do stand-up comedy, then you know about contracts.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rachel Stanhoff says her ex-boyfriend, Joseph Jefferson, owes her money he borrowed to buy car rims. Joseph claims the money was a gift.
Listen up, Mr. Jefferson. You owe her for the tire rims. You're 20 years old. You could either be in your life. First of all, you got this dumb look on your face, which is really irritating. This smile, which really is irritating, because it looks to me as if you're trying to get over, and you think you're going to get over me. I'm smarter than you will be if you live to be 170 years old. Right? Do you understand that? Because you are either so thick or so impervious to what's right because you had no moral upbringing that I really feel sorry for you. And maybe that accounts for this ridiculous look on your face. But what I'm telling you is, you could either be a nice person or you could be a taker and a sucker all your life, sucking off other people. And it sounds to me as if you started your young life being a sucker off other people, taking advantage of other people and thinking that you have some gift, some special gift. I tell you right now, I got 3 sons, right? And I'm looking at you and I'm saying, you are no gift to anybody.
You gave it?
You are no gift. You are a 20-year-old unemployed person who takes from young women because he thinks that he's God's gift. I mean, you're not even good looking. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,255. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
And now the next case.
Parties on Kaufman, Smith versus Rodriguez. Step forward, please.
Bikini models Jennifer Kaufman and Kim Smith are suing magazine publisher David Rodriguez because he used their photos in his magazine but never paid them.
You two ladies posed for some photographs that were in the defendant's magazine. Mm-hmm. You claim that he promised to pay you. He didn't. Is that what this case is about?
Yes. It is.
Well, who's going to speak first?
I would like to.
What's your name?
Jennifer Kaufman.
Okay.
We met Dave through some mutual friends, and we met at a local restaurant. And we had discussed, he said he was going to do some catalog work and a lot of different stuff, and we were excited for him, and we had discussed doing some pictures for him. And so
he wanted to set up a photo shoot for the bathing suit company.
For the bathing suit company.
Yeah.
And we went, he set up the photo shoot. Well, we didn't make the first one. And at the restaurant, he said, well, at the sign of release, if we like your pictures, and we'll go from there.
The photographer then called us and insisted that we come on Father's Day and do this. And they said if they decide to publish our pictures, then we will then sit down and talk about a contract and be compensated for our work. Then some girls came up to us and said, yeah, we saw your picture in the San Antonio Sports Magazine. We were like, what? And we never signed anything. May I also add there's pictures floating around the internet.
So what you're telling me is you didn't have a contract with him?
We were supposed to, if the pictures were
If
to
they
be
liked the
published,
pictures, they didn't- yeah.
then we
If
would sit
they-
down and talk about them.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do for a living? What do you do for a living?
We're entertainers.
And
What
I do
kind of
stand-up comedy.
entertainers?
We're both topless entertainers, and I do stand-up comedy.
Well, if you're topless entertainers and do stand-up comedy, then you know about contracts. So you're going to do these pictures, right, for some sort of compensation if the pictures were published. But you hadn't discussed the compensation with him.
If they decided to use our pictures, then that's what we were to discuss.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Did you ever hear speak when spoken to? Sit down. I'm not ready for witnesses yet.
Okay.
Good. So you hadn't had an amount of money that you agreed on, even if they used your pictures.
Well, we said to them, we're missing a day of work. They know the money that we do make when we work, and it's a very hard lesson. We did learn a lesson from this.
Good. So what are you here for?
To be compensated.
Be compensated for the work that was done.
And
well,
our
how
pictures
much do you think? How much do you think you should be compensated?
$750 for each job.
And how many jobs did you do?
2.
You each did 2?
The first job we did was for a clothesline. It was runway modeling for the other photographer.
Well, don't tell me about the other photographer. You're talking about this. You're talking about this swimsuit issue, right?
Right. Yes.
So you think you should be compensated $750 a piece? That's $1,500, right? What about $500 a piece for the day? No, I'm just asking. What about $500?
May I say I have no animosity toward Dave. It has nothing to do with. It's just it's about work. It's about his job that we don't. We're not compensated for. We trusted in his word, and that's what was understood.
Well, you know, if that was the case, if she had no animosity toward me, she called my advertisers trying to say that I was a liar. I mean, I go on my word.
Never said that.
I don't have any proof to show you, but my clients call me and say, you know, we have 2 girls calling trying to get our insurance company to pay them money. And this is one of my clients, I can't say who they are, and they said, why were they calling me? I have nothing to do with your
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
You took pictures of them, correct?
I didn't. A
photographer did. For your magazine.
Yes.
And you make money from this magazine from selling advertising space,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
So it would seem to me that if you sold advertising space, and this is that way you make your living, then you compensate the people who work for you. So you use their pictures.
Yes.
And how did you compensate them?
Okay, this is the deal.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Not here's the deal.
Okay.
You use their pictures in a product that you made
Yes.
from which you make a living
Yes.
from selling advertising.
Yes.
And my question to you is, how did you compensate them?
I told them they would get trade, that they would get a swimsuit. The company said they would provide each girl a swimsuit.
Why would we
want... Just put your hand down.
For their services, for posting in the magazine.
Are you kidding me or what?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And I'm not going to hire 2 strippers. I'm going to go after a modeling agency. That's what I would do if I'm going to pay anybody
First
to
of all,
model on a
stripper's
magazine.
not what you do, it's who you are.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bikini models Jennifer Kaufman and Kim Smith say magazine publisher David Rodriguez published their photos without paying them. David claims they agreed to let him use the photos for free.
Did you give him the swimsuit?
Well,
not well.
Yes, one of them has a swimsuit.
The one that they were wearing
One
that
of them,
day?
yes.
The one that they were wearing that day?
Yes.
Well, you know, you can't go out and sell those things again. I mean, you can't go out and sell them once you use it.
Exactly.
You know, once you use it,
Yes,
you bought it.
exactly.
So you're telling me, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
You expect me to believe, sir, that you got all the free talent to make your magazine, and in exchange for that, they were supposed to get a bathing suit.
Yes.
I don't usually ask these questions because it's not a good idea. Lawyers should never do that. Why would you think that they would do that?
This is the reason why.
I'm waiting.
Every year, I have an annual swimsuit issue. I get tons of photographs from women who want to be in the swimsuit issue. It's one of my biggest issues of the year. I don't pay one model to be in my swimsuit issue, not one. Out of all the models that I use, I have 13 models. I have these 2 girls saying they want to get paid. 2 girls out of 13 models. Does that make any sense there?
Can I see the magazine, please?
Well, we don't know what they discussed with them, but what we discussed with him is totally different.
Well, I have
No,
witnesses.
let me tell you something. You didn't really discuss anything with him, because when you discuss something with him, then you make a price. I could just as easily say to you, listen, ladies, you didn't discuss with him what the price was for your work that day, which is what you're supposed to do. So I believe that you should be compensated. Looks to me like you had a pretty good time. $50 seems like a nice amount of money. I mean, I could say that to you. You're supposed to be smarter. I mean, if this is your business, if you're in the entertainment business, you're supposed to use your noodles.
But the fact of the matter is, too, that they contacted me. Here's the deal here. She called me wanting to be in my swimsuit issue. So I said I would meet with them. I met with them right on the table. I told, think of it, I have all these models. I mean, I have real models. I mean, I could have, if I was going to pay anybody, I'm going to hire a modeling agency. I'm not going to get...
Do real models not get paid?
Well, let me ask you
I'm
this.
not going to hire 2 strippers. I'm going to go after a modeling agency. That's what I would do if I'm going to pay anybody to model a magazine.
Not what you do, it's who you are.
Okay, well...
Let me ask you this question, sir. They took a lot of photographs of these young ladies, right? Where are the photographs that they took of these young ladies?
The photographer has them. They are his pictures.
Around the internet.
Some of them you have.
Yes.
Because you clearly went through some of them.
Sure,
and
to edit it and go through it and decide which ones were the best, yes.
Well, let us assume for the moment that there was some sort of a misunderstanding. And in addition to being compensated by getting a swimsuit, and quite frankly, ladies, I can understand why ladies who are in the entertainment field would like to have the kind of exposure that this magazine, I mean, it looks like a perfectly nice magazine. It's got a picture of nice young ladies in bathing suits and very athletic-looking young men. I mean, there's nothing untoward about these pictures. Why you might want to have your picture in this kind of magazine, right? I assume you like that idea.
Yeah, would you like
right?
Sure.
I assume you like that idea.
Sure.
Okay. And the money wasn't really that important to you, because if it was that important to you and if it was your business, you would have made a price with him and you would have entered into a written contract with him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't take much stock in the fact that there was some sort of a breach of contract. But, Mr. Rodriguez.
Well, can I say something? Okay.
I'm not going to take any longer with this case than it's worth. It's not worth a lot, sir. I've already told them that they're not getting $3,000, they're not getting $1,500 because you didn't have a contract price, and I don't intend to make a contract now when there was none before.
But do I get anything for the models that now, since they ruined it with the swimsuit issue, they do not want to give the models that I owe swimsuits to? Now I have to, what do I do now? What do I do now?
Listen, what am I, your mother? What am I, your mother? You got a countersuit here? You have a countersuit here?
Well, I didn't, there was not time.
Time, shoulda, woulda, coulda. You know, you're a businessman. I'm not your mother. I don't intend to solve all your problems, sir, and stop chewing gum in my courtroom. Listen to me. Listen to me.
Yes.
You have some pictures of them that I think that they would probably like to have.
Yes.
Wouldn't you like to have the photographs,
Yes,
please?
we would.
That would be very nice. At least they could put that in their portfolio, right?
Well, since they're the photographer's pictures,
I'm talking about the ones,
the ones
you
I have. Yes, yes. Gladly I'd give them to them.
Perfect. By tomorrow. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
We did work and we want to be compensated for the work. I mean, of course we're not going to ask, I mean, bathing suits. Who would want bathing suits that worn from someone given back? That should be just normal feminine hygiene. That should be a given that we would get the suit. So I didn't. And he made her give the one that she had on. Yes, I gave mine back. I don't know what they planned on doing with it. Who was wearing those?
That's what happens when you know you're wrong. You walk away.
That's why
when
the
you
photographer didn't even show up.
When you know you're wrong. Well, I'm here. You're suing me. Why didn't you see the photographer? Why didn't you see the photographer? Well, then why am I here? I'm from Texas. We sort of have this thing, handshake means a lot, our word means a lot. Obviously, they're not from Texas, so they don't know what it means.
Party's on. Owens versus Reed. Step forward, please.
Caregiver Gwendolyn Owens rented her Lincoln Town car to family friend, 23-year-old bartender Jason Reed. Gwendolyn says Jason not only didn't pay, but he trashed it too.
All rise in the courtroom, please. Quiet, please. Yeah, this is case number 273 on the calendar in the matter of Owens versus Reed.
Thank you, Bird.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mrs. Owens, according to your complaint, you are a friend of the defendant's grandparents and parents.
I know him, yes.
And there came a time when you leased to him one of your automobiles.
Yes, I did.
It was a
Lincoln Town car.
1991 Lincoln Town car.
Correct.
Not only didn't he pay the lease, but he trashed the car.
He certainly did.
So you're suing him for the amount of damage he did to the car, as well as whatever rental agreement, lease agreement you had with him. Why don't you tell me how this agreement came about?
It was in April that Jason came to my home. He had just come from a car rental place where they were going to lease him, so he said, a small compact car for $649 a month. He was upset about that and wanted to know if I would lease him mine, that he would pay me. He would rather pay, I'm going to quote him, "I would rather pay you than them any day."
Okay, so tell me about what happened when your car was returned.
Okay, when my car was returned, the telescopic antenna that only goes up when the key is on no longer existed on it. I have some pictures of the front of the car. And in fact, Jason, if you'd watched my car, you would have seen where your people wrote your profanity on the hood of my car. It's still there.
Miss Owens, don't talk to him. Talk to me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I tried to circle the profanity.
Are these the only pictures you have of the car? Because they're really very hard to tell what kind of damage
Yes,
was
it
done
is.
to the
It's
car.
the only ones that came out. The others were worse. The sun directed into the camera or something.
All right. Because this is hard to tell what kind of damage there was to the car. Was there any mechanical damage to the car?
Yes, there was.
Well, tell me about the mechanical
Okay,
damage.
I took the car to the Lincoln dealers because when he brought the car back, it was inoperable. He had broken the shifter, the thing that goes through the steering column and everything, in two places, not one place, two places. And the mechanic at the Lincoln dealer said that that car had to be traveling at high speed and hit a tall embankment.
Miss Owens, don't tell me what the person told you. Just let me see the estimates of damage.
There they are.
Okay. Looks like a book. Yeah.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Yeah.
Had I have not agreed to lease this car to Jason, my insurance company would sue him.
Well, did they pay for these repairs?
No.
They should have.
No.
Did they pay for these repairs?
No,
And if
ma'am.
they did
You'll
not,
see right there. You'll see the check numbers, everything.
No, I understand, but why did they disclaim on your policy?
Because I agreed to do this voluntarily with him.
And you were forthcoming with your insurance company and told them. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. Now, your defense is totally different.
Totally.
First, let's establish the car was returned in damaged condition, correct?
Right.
And according to you, that happened how, sir?
I parked in valet at the Luxor Hotel. I came out in the morning, the car was broke. Now, they leave the keys in the car. They're not responsible for anything. So the car was obviously broken into, and it wasn't damaged. I think it happened. It's just wear and tear on the car. The car's an old car. What broke was underneath the steering column. It's not something somebody can go in and break, trying to break into it. I said, I will pay for it. I'm having it towed in right now. And she said, she goes, no, I want my son to do it. All this is about her son. I bailed her son out of jail for $450.
Excuse me. Miss Owens, don't speak to him. You seem to indicate in your answer that there was no lease agreement.
There was no lease agreement. I never signed anything.
I didn't ask you whether you signed anything. So tell me how it came about, sir, that you got possession, according to you, of this car.
She called me and asked me if I could bail her son out of jail. He'd gotten a DUI. I said, no problem. She said, I have no money. He has no money. Could you please help us out, Jason? I said, no problem.
Did you know her son?
Yes. He used to work for my dad 8 years ago. I haven't seen him in 8 years.
All right. So you went and bailed him out.
So I went and bailed him out for her. She went with me to go down and pick him up. She said, hey, listen, Jason, I heard you need a car. Why don't you drive my extra Lincoln as a favor back to you?
Okay. Now,
Not
Miss
to
Owens,
mention she asked me to
stop.
help him.
Miss Owens, had your son been arrested?
According to him, yes.
No. I didn't ask according to him, Miss Owens. I have to get to the truth of this matter.
Correct.
Had your son been arrested?
Correct.
Did you call him and ask him to bail your son out of jail?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Did you go down with him to bail your son out of jail?
Yes, because he could not put up the bail. He was with him when he got arrested. He was his driver.
I was not with him.
Just
you
a
were
second.
drunk.
I was not
My
with
son
him.
was drunk.
Hey, please
You were drunk. My
Miss
son was
Owens,
drunk.
you're not paying attention to me.
I'm sorry.
Just talk to me. Understood? You did go down with him. He was there when your son was bailed out of jail. Is that correct?
Correct.
Who put up the money?
I did, and my property.
You did not. She put up her home. She had to sign for her home. I paid the cash. I paid $450 cash.
Did you get it back?
No, I didn't get it back. Not to mention, she asked me to help pay for him and take care of him. I got him 2 jobs. He didn't go to him. I paid for him, his gas, everything, his chew. I paid for everything.
So let me
because she asked me to help him out.
So let me ask you this question. After you bailed him out of jail, where were you when you had the discussion about the car?
In my car.
In which car?
I had my dad's truck at the time. I went and picked her up at her house so she could go down and sign, and I could pay the cash because she didn't have the money.
Okay. So, according to you, there was no agreement to lease a car to you?
No agreement.
That she was just being a nice person and letting you use the car?
I got burned because I was being a nice guy, and she knows how I am. She knows how I really am.
Mm-hmm.
This is wrong.
When the car didn't work, Jason, did you call her and tell her that the car didn't work?
I called her and said I was going to have it towed in.
So you called her and told her that the car didn't work?
From the Luxor Hotel, from the parking lot, from my cell, I called and said, listen, I'm going to have your car towed in. She said, no, bring it home. We'll let Jim fix it. He's a mechanic. He kind of does everything. She said, it'd be a lot cheaper. I said, well, I'll pay for it. I'm not worried about it. I have to drive the car, so I want it fixed. She goes, just bring it over and Jim can fix it. It'll be much cheaper. The day I brought it over, she chewed me out and started going off on me.
What do you mean?
For money.
Just a second. How much after this alleged incident at the Luxor Hotel did you return the car to her?
About 3 weeks.
What were you doing with the car for 3 weeks?
I had driven the car for about a month, about 2 months.
No. If you say
the car was still drivable.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Shame on you.
You know, there was part of your story that made sense to me, Jason. This part of your story, it don't make sense to me, Jason.
Why
if
does
it doesn't make sense to me, honey, it ain't true.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gwendolyn Owens is suing Jason Reed for repairs, paint, and rent for a Lincoln Town Car totaling $5,000. Jason says, no way did he do that much damage.
According to you, Mr. Reed, you called her from the Luxor and told her that something happened to the car.
Yes.
Well, then I don't understand why you would have called her from the hotel late at night or early in the morning if there was really nothing wrong with the car that prevented you from driving it.
No, what happened was in the morning when I called her, I'd called AAA at the same time.
What'd you call AAA
for? To come pick the car up. It wasn't drivable. The AAA guy came down and said, listen, Jason, he goes, do you want to drive this car to here or do you want me to tow it? He goes, it makes no difference to me. I said, well, I'd like to drive it. So he showed me how I could manually shift the car underneath the dash. He stuck your hand up, grabbed the shifter, and shifted it. So that's why she told me to keep driving it.
Now you're telling me she told you to keep driving it.
She told me to keep driving the car until I got my car back.
Jason.
Shame on you.
Jason. You know, there was part of your story that made sense to me, Jason. This part of your story, it don't make sense to me, Jason.
Why
if
doesn't?
It doesn't make sense to me, honey, it ain't true. Because if you come back, your car is not drivable, and if you're a responsible person, and if it's your car, and when you borrow someone's car, as you said, as you borrowed someone's car, you treat it with more care than you treat your own car.
Right. She told me to bring it over to her house so Jim could fix the car because she didn't have the money to pay for it to be fixed, and I offered to pay for it.
Good. So there we have one thing that's really important. So you offered to fix the car that you had then been driving. And let's say she said, no. But you offered to fix it, because if you offered to fix it, Mr. Reed, then you must have appreciated, at least at that moment, that that was your moral responsibility, since you were driving the car at the time. Not only driving the car when it was something happened to it at the hotel, but driving the car for 3 weeks after it with whatever clunking or whatever it was doing.
No, it wasn't like that.
Or whatever manipulating you had to do to get it going. Miss Owens, what kind of relationship does this defendant have with your son?
None.
Well,
Same
just
as I have.
a second. I
We
said, what kind of, I
only
didn't
know
ask you
him.
whether you were a relative. I said, what kind of relationship does your son have with him?
He just visited him while he was here visiting.
Lived with me, you should say.
Shh. Miss Owens, you have a son. How old is your son?
37. He's a
Miss
grown
Owens, if you
man.
don't talk to me, I'm going to say that to you only once more. Don't look at him. You talk to me. You want to talk to him? You talk to him outside. In here, you talk to me. You have a son. According to you, they were together at the time your son was arrested, so I assume they had some sort of relationship. Is that right?
Correct.
Right. Were they friends?
I would think so.
How long
My
have you
son knew his father.
Were you friends?
We're good friends.
All right. Let me tell you, Mr. Reed, there are certain things that make sense and certain things that don't. You drove this car for a period of time. 6 weeks?
About 8 weeks.
8 weeks. And according to the plaintiff, you had a lease agreement. Now, let me tell you why I have a tendency to believe that there was some sort of a lease agreement. Because what Mrs. Owens did when she had this damage to the car, she called her insurance company, and she, instead of saying the car was damaged this way, she said, well, I leased the car to this young man, and that's all the insurance company had to hear. And they said, well, if you leased it to somebody else without our permission, then we're not responsible for any damage that occurred to the car. You understand?
Right, I understand that.
So she was clearly upfront with the insurance company and say that she had this agreement, even though you weren't paying her each week or each month. She says in her papers, you said to her, we'll settle up at the end. Now, my question about settling up in the end, I come back to this, Miss Owens. And this is just a minor question. Was your son living with the defendant after he was bailed out of jail? Just answer my question.
No.
Who was he living with?
Himself. He came with a fifth wheel, pulling a fifth wheel. You know, a trailer, fifth wheel, RV, recreational vehicle.
You say he was living with you.
He was living with me. Who would want to live in a trailer?
You did.
Shut.
I did. I never lived in a trailer.
Miss Owens, you did it again. Maybe you just forget. Because you seem to suggest in your papers that there was sort of a trade-off for whatever money you spent on her son living with you for the use of this car. That was an underlying suggestion in here. Was that ever discussed with her?
No, and that's the whole
Okay, that's all I want to know. That was never discussed with her.
No,
That
he
you
was telling me he was discussing this with her. He said, I got this all taken care of with my mother.
No. But you never discussed it with her.
Never.
Well, if you never discussed it with her, sir, that there was going to be some sort of an accounting at the end in exchange for the lease, whatever money you spent on her son living with you, if he in fact lived with you, if that conversation was not had with the plaintiff, it doesn't exist.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Are you telling me that out of the goodness of your heart, you went carless for 8 weeks?
Correct.
It's so easy to do a case when everybody is telling a little bit of a lie, Miss Owens.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Gwendolyn Owens claims Jason Reed owes her $5,000 for damages and rental fees on her Lincoln Town Car.
Mr. Reed, tell me what happened with the paint job on this car.
I have no idea. Her son's a punk, and he probably did something to it.
What do you mean her son?
They made up stuff. That car was, it's a joke.
Well, quite frankly, I couldn't see any damage to the
There wasn't
paint.
any damage to the car.
Miss Owens, I didn't see any damage to the car based upon the photographs.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
hard for me to tell.
No, that's where I tried to photograph the filth that his friends or somebody wrote. 4-letter words right on the front of my car. If I don't keep it dirty, everybody gets to read it.
You mean it's embedded in the paint?
Yes.
Well, if it's embedded in the paint, then you had a bad paint job. Because according to the papers...
I haven't had it painted yet, ma'am. I have the estimates on the paint job. Do you have those right there?
So you haven't had any of this work done on the car?
Not the paint job. Everything but the paint job. I have spent $4,054.07, excluding the paint job.
According to you, Miss Owens, you have a rental fee in here of $25.96. Where do you get $25.96 from?
Do you have that right there on the front of your paperwork?
I have, according to your complaint, that you spent.
I have 4 months of car rental.
He said he only had the car for 8 weeks.
When I discovered my car in the front yard, it was inoperable. I could not drive it. Maybe he figures out how to do this.
No.
But I can't.
How long did he have the car?
4 months.
According to you, 4 months. And are you also attributing 2 months to him when your car was inoperable?
Correct.
Miss Owens?
Correct.
I'm not doing that, madam.
Correct.
I'm not doing that. He had the car for 8 weeks. I mean, this is supposed to be responsible. He returned the car to you. I assume you have more than one car. Is that right? Which is why you let him...
No, ma'am, that's the only car I have.
That's a lie.
Miss Owens, are you telling me that out of the goodness of your heart you went carless for 8 weeks? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, a couple of times I tried to drive my deceased husband's big dually. You know, big truck with duals on it.
It's so easy to do a case when everybody is telling a little bit of a lie, Miss Owens.
I'm not.
Well, you are, madam. When you say this is my only car, I don't believe that you gave this young man your car under whatever circumstances you gave it to him if you didn't have another car to drive. This is not your grandson. So I don't believe that you did not have another car to drive. And
ma'am, I'm 4 blocks from everything.
And I am certainly not going to charge him for, according to you, the several months that you did not have use of this car. Could have had it fixed right away.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
How much was this little red car that you were going to lease, sir?
I never picked out a car. I asked her son, he was at my house, and I was leaving to work. I said, listen, do me a favor, call down and see if you can find out some prices on cars. He calls me at work and said, listen, Jason, the cheapest car you're going to get is for like $630.
Okay, so there's where we get the $630.
Here it is right here. He brought this.
And you did have the car for 2 months, is that correct, Mr.
Yes.
Reed? Okay. The cost to repair the mechanical damage to the car is $1,300. I'm giving you, Miss Owens, $600 to have the car painted, and the cost of the lease is $630 a month for a period of 2 months, not 4 months that you have requested, Miss Owens. Grand total is $3,160. Judgment for the plaintiff in that amount. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Flores versus Smith. Step forward, please.
45-year-old Nailani Flores says her late mother's hairdresser, Donald Smith, swindled her out of money before she died. Donald claims he and Nailani's mother were friends, and the money was a gift.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Judge, this is case number 316 on the calendar in the matter of Flores versus Smith. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Miss Flores, your mother died suddenly. How old was she when she died?
73.
And you claim at the time of her death, the defendant owed her money.
Yes, that is correct.
Tell me what makes you think he owed her money and why she gave him money.
Okay. At the time of her death, we went through her financial matters, and with her checkbook and her bank statements was her ledger. My mom was a bookkeeper for 45 years. My mom would not just knowingly give him a gift and write it down. I mean, if she gave a gift, she would not write it down. So
you can't go in somebody else's head.
That's correct.
Even if they're no longer here.
Right.
So you found her ledger.
Yes, I did. And with this ledger, I found his name, Donald Smith, of which I didn't know. I knew of him, but I've never met him before.
How did you know of him?
By my daughter, Tammy. Tammy had gone to dinner with them one evening. And my mom paid for dinner, which Tammy thought was kind of strange that he wouldn't pick up a tab, being a man. I mean, it's just common sense. Anyway, from there, from
Not
dinner...
in the 90s.
Okay, from dinner, they went gambling. Well, from there, my mom was pulling money out, giving him money to gamble. And Tammy goes, well, that's kind of strange. When she came back home, she said, something strange is going on here. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, he's taking money from her. Well, I mean, I didn't think anything about that till I found the ledger saying that there were bills incurred for Dawn. Doctor bills, loans to Dawn, more doctor bills, Mervyn's charge cards. Also, she had just recently purchased you furniture, of which my mother also kept a daily log of telephone calls that were made to him, saying whether he called, whether he didn't call. It seemed like when he had his appointments, he would call her. She would also take him to work on a daily basis, which was like across town. They live in Las Vegas. She lives on the east side of town. He lives in North Las Vegas. So it was quite a commute for her.
So what?
And
I mean, what does that mean to you, Ms. Flores?
I mean that he was constantly calling and asking her to do things for him.
So what? Is there anything wrong with your mother's mind?
There wasn't at the time of her death, not that I know of.
And she was 73 years old, which today is not an old person.
Right. She was killed in a car accident. She hit a tree.
So let's just talk about the money that she gave him to go gambling, when they were out to pay for dinner and that sort of stuff. It was her money, wasn't it?
That is correct, to give, yes.
So that's really none of your business.
That is correct.
So, and I assume that you don't suggest that you're looking to recoup that money from him.
Absolutely not. Only what was borrowed.
Well, so that what I'd like you to do is to show me in the ledger where it says loan.
Okay.
Okay.
It's right here.
Because that's primarily what I'm going to look at.
Right. It's right here. Also, here are credit card bills, of which it says Dawn owes for these, that were in her ledger. And here also is the furniture that she had purchased a month before she died.
Well, where does that say that that was a loan?
It does not say it. Well, it just says Dawn owes for this.
Who wrote Dawn owes for that?
My mother.
Let me see.
Okay. Any and all transactions. Okay.
Okay. What was your mother's name?
Helen Royce.
How did you know Helen?
When I was in beauty school, she was a client, a steady client, and I did her hair. And struck up a friendship, and after I graduated, she just followed me. I still did her hair in the salons I was at, and the friendship still developed from there. She didn't talk to her kids a lot, and I didn't have any family.
That is not true. I'm telling you, that's not true. My phone bills.
Listen to me.
Okay.
He was quiet. Now you have to be quiet.
All right.
From what she told me, she didn't have the best relationship with him because they had owed her money. She had loaned them $10,000 to get their house years ago and had never even attempted to pay her back, and they did have a contract with her. So that made a gap between them. She did take me to work if I needed. She made sure.
I'm not concerned about her taking you to work, sir. I'm not concerned about her taking you to dinner. This is a lady who, I assume, was a little lonely, and she found your company appealing, and She wanted to spend her money on you. That's her business.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I didn't have any family growing up. She showed me what a nice a grandmother and a mother was.
Aww.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Neilani Flores is suing her late mother's hairdresser, Donald Smith, for loans he never repaid.
Miss Flores, I'm looking at this book that you gave me. And I assume that it's just this one page that you're talking about?
2 pages,
well,
yes.
These 2 pages.
Yes.
And let me tell you that on these 2 pages, there is only one indication of a loan. The others clearly indicate bills incurred for Dawn.
Correct.
That doesn't necessarily, madam, convince me that those were loans. You know, when you give money to somebody, especially, I can imagine a situation where you are an elderly lady, home, you have a bookkeeping mentality, you want to keep track of how much money you gave to somebody just for your own head. I mean, how many times do I wake up in the morning and I want to know how much money I have in my savings account and my checking account and how much money I gave to this child or to that child? That doesn't mean it's a loan. That just means that I'm keeping a mental note of how much that particular person has cost me that year. Do you understand? It could just as easily have been that's written in this book, because there is one place where it says loan.
That's correct.
$450, according to your mother. He still owes her $400 from this. Now, this piece of paper that it looks as if it's written in the same hand.
That is her writing, yes.
Right. But there is also no indication that this was a loan.
Right? That's correct. But if the money wasn't owed, she wouldn't have written it down.
I don't know that. I think that you have a difficult time. You're going to have a difficult time proving that. Now, when you say this is a piece of paper that says
credit
Dawn
receipts.
owes this.
That's correct.
11,396.
Of which we're still paying the bills for her, yes.
Okay.
His clothing receipts. There were many more receipts that weren't included.
Just a second. I'm looking for her handwriting on here, because I do see one, and it seems to match the handwriting in her book, in her ledger, on this credit card.
There's several Mervyn's receipts for men's clothing, of which are for him.
Well, just a second. You have to understand something, madam. What I just said to you was, there are certain things that clearly your mother had denoted as loans, owes, loans.
And all of this.
And certain things on which there are no notes.
They were all included in that book, though, Your Honor. You know, pinned inside together.
I only see one note of hers.
Right, they were all pinned inside.
Paper clip.
Paper clipped inside.
What?
There were also
What I think she's trying to say is that my mother-in-law was keeping track of the bills and anything she had spent on them, and that what she's trying to say is that those look like they were all incurred as a loan to him.
Looks like is not a loan.
Okay.
Sir. Looks like is not a loan.
Okay.
It has to be clearly marked. He says that they were not loans. He says that they were gifts. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
They weren't gifts, Donald.
Miss Flores, don't talk. Miss Flores, don't
That's
talk
what's
to him.
wrong with the elderly, though. That's how they're getting ripped off.
Miss Flores, sometimes you're absolutely right. And sometimes a lady who is 73 years old, living far away from her family, and I assume you live far enough away so that you didn't see your mother a couple of times a week. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
If she has to pay for some companionship by buying a present or by giving a shirt or by buying furniture, unfortunately, that happens. And then when there is a tragedy like this, the family feels as if their parent was taken advantage of. At the time your mother was alive, I guarantee you, she didn't feel as if she was being taken advantage of. She was having a good time. Did your step up here. You went out to dinner and you went gambling with your grandmother and the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Did your grandmother look like she was having a good time?
Sure.
Right. How many times did you go gambling with your grandmother?
every time I went up there.
Well, how often was that?
Once every couple months. Whenever I made it up to Vegas, I'd go.
So once every couple of months, you took Grandma out for a spin.
Yes,
How many
I
times
did.
did you go gambling with Grandma?
Usually once a week.
I took Grandma. Grandma didn't take me.
It doesn't make any difference.
But she was living from check to check to check. And then by the time of her death, as you can see, she started out with $35,000 in the bank. 2 years later, she depleted her savings. Now we have bills that we're paying on for him.
Just a second. You don't seem to understand something. It's her money.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You make me nauseous. If this camera went on, I swear to God, my dad would knock me out. I swear to God.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Neilani Flores is suing her late mother's hairdresser, Donald Smith, claiming he swindled her out of thousands of dollars before she died.
You're not responsible for your mother's debts. You know darn well that you're not under the law. So if you have to pay out any money for her, it's being paid out of her money.
What money? There's no money left.
Then if there's no money left, madam, then you don't have to pay anymore because children and grandchildren are not liable for the debts of their parents. I'm certain that your lawyer told you that. This is her money. If she wants to go gambling with him and give him money 5 nights a week because that makes her happy, it may not be smart, it may not be preserving her estate, but she's lonely and she's not going to live for every 2 months when her granddaughter decides to come up and pay her a visit and take her out to dinner and gambling. That doesn't mean he's necessarily a nice person. I'm not even suggesting that to you. And I'm not suggesting that he didn't take advantage of her. He probably did.
I think so, too.
Absolutely.
I know. Why not?
A lot of people take advantage of the elderly.
That's sad.
Well, it is sad. However, it made her happy.
Why was she paying his rent if he had a job?
It made your grandmother happy. If she didn't want to do it, she wouldn't have done it. She was of sound mind, and if she had to pay for an occasional escort, which is what he was, and he said that they were really good friends. Bull. However, if she had to pay for it so that she had company a couple of times a week, that made her happy. Why are you complaining now?
Because we're paying for his bills.
No, you're not. What do you mean you're paying?
Because in the will, it stated my mom is the executor of the will. So any monies be paid out for any of her expenses be paid out of that. So we did
What's your
that.
first name?
Tammy.
Are you dumb?
No, I'm not.
Well, then let me tell you something. What you're saying to me is I tried to explain it to you. Because your mother is the executrix of your grandmother's will, she does not have to go to her bank account, her personal bank account, and pay 1 sou for your grandmother's debts. The only money that can be used to pay for your grandmother's debts is your grandmother's money, which is not your money, no matter what you think. It is not your money. There may not be anything left for you after you pay the debts, but you 3 people do not have to dig into your own pocket to pay for anything. So stop thinking about it as your money. It's not. It was your grandmother's money, and she could do whatever she diddly pleases with it, and it pleased her. It gave her a certain amount of pleasure to sport him around. I don't know why, but it did. Now that I've taken care of that area, now I talk to you. There were certain things clearly here that she indicated you owed her. Take a deep gulp. You want to tell me what you owed her?
Nothing that she gave, it was all gifts.
That's not true. That's clearly not true.
If it was as a loan, there would have been a contract made that I would have signed.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. The 450 was I was in between jobs and she helped me out with the rent. I paid back the first payment of 40, and when I gave her that 40, she looked at me and says, "That's all I wanted to know was that you made the effort." She goes, "Forget about the rest."
Well, but that's not what it says here. That was a loan. Because that's what she has denoted here, that it was a loan. Now, let's talk about this furniture. How'd you get the furniture?
That was delivered to me, my understanding, as a housewarming and a birthday present. I moved into a house I'm renting with my companion. It was a month of my birthday also. She wanted to go to a furniture store. She was asking me what I liked. I was asking, "Why are you asking me this? You know, I'm not looking for furniture." And a couple weeks after I'd moved in, what I had picked she knew that I had likes. She had bought and delivered.
Uh-huh. You work, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I can understand buying you some clothes. I can understand taking you out to dinner. I can understand even giving you some gambling money when you go out. I don't have a problem with that. They may have a problem with that, but I certainly don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with $1,379 for furniture for you and your companion.
That was her choice. It was not asked of her. That's what she wanted to do.
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. That doesn't sit right with me. You have two men who live together, both employed, and there comes a point when taking from this lady became being a pig. Certain things she wants to buy you some clothes, she wants to take you out for dinner, she wants to make sure she has some company. But then there comes a point when it's sort of sickening. This is sort of sickening.
Why?
Why?
That was her choice. We didn't ask. I didn't ask.
I don't believe you. Did you just happen to be home when the furniture was delivered?
No, I was at work. I had to go home.
You didn't mean you didn't know it was going to be delivered? It was all a surprise to you.
They called me and I had to go down.
That didn't answer my question.
No, I did not know it was going to be delivered that day.
You're full of baloney.
She also paid all of his doctor bills also.
I see that here. That's not marked alone, madam. It's not marked alone.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You're never going to recoup all the money that you gave him. It's not going to happen. But you should have at least some comfort in knowing that your mother had a good time. She did. She had some young people around her that made her feel good. Your mom didn't call an escort service and said, send me somebody to have a good time with. They treated her nicely. They showed her a good time. They probably made her laugh. They gambled together. She probably enjoyed going to a casino with them, better than going by herself to a casino. You know that that's true. And they took financial advantage of her. It's been happening for ages. But you don't recoup that. Unless there's some clear indication or some common sense, like with this furniture. Shirts and stuff I can understand. But a house full of furniture for two working men, I don't. God. Okay. There are certain things that are clearly marked as loans. I'm counting up only those things, and I am including in it the furniture.
Okay.
Because you're sitting on it, you're sleeping on it, you're going to pay for it. And all those things together come to $2,104, judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Look at this face because he's going to prey on you next. Yeah.
Evil little woman.
Evil.
Evil?
No, you're evil.
He had a free e-ticket right on the woman. He made her feel like they were friends. The woman never bought herself furniture in 20 years. She turns around and gives this guy $1,700 worth. Not going to happen.
And she sat on it and she slept on it too.
Oh, yeah, sure she did.
You are. You are so stupid.
Oh, you know me so well. I never want to see you again, and I wish to God I never saw you in the first place. And now I know why she stayed away from you for so long.
Dad, don't even go there.
You'll see me again, pal. Makes you a real man that you prey on old people. You can't even support yourself. What kind of law? Where's your family?
I hope that this case has proved that, that there will be justice for the elderly, that they're constantly preyed on like people like you.
Parties on Bocock versus Bocock. Step forward, please.
27-year-old receptionist Sandra Bocock is suing her father, Bob, for money owed to the state for child care of her 9-year-old daughter, Jessica.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 284 on the calendar in the matter of Bocock versus Bocock. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, sir, have a seat.
Who are you, sir?
Herb Shavers.
You're a lawyer.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure because I've read all of these papers. This is your father.
Yes.
Your mother?
Yes.
Miss Bocock, According to your complaint, you are suing your father for money that you owe to the state.
Yes.
For child support.
Yes.
And that came about because several years ago, your daughter, who was quite young, was removed from your care. According to all the papers and documents that I've read, the child was removed from your care because the gentleman who you were living with hit her. She was about 18 months old. The child was placed in foster care for about a year, a little less than a year, and then went into your parents' home. Correct?
Reasonably close, yes, ma'am.
How many years was the child with you?
About 6.
And for part of that time, she was with you as a foster child.
Yes, ma'am.
Which meant that you were getting money from the state as a foster parent.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the way things work these days, even if you're a grandparent. And then you were told that you had to file for either custody or guardianship of the child, and you consented to your parents having guardianship.
I was threatened.
Threatened by whom?
I was threatened by my social worker that if I did not give my parents guardianship, I would never see my daughter again. She would go up for adoption. I would never see her again. I was not given a choice.
Doesn't make much of a difference. There's only one innocent in this case, and that innocent is this child.
True.
I mean, you made certain choices when you were living with this gentleman that you were living with, because the child was ultimately removed from your care again. She was removed from your care once, and then you were told that she would be removed permanently if you let her have any contact with this man. And according to the papers that I read, you let her speak to him on the phone. She was just a little girl, and then you moved back in with him because you had some financial problems.
That's not true.
Well, according to the papers that I've read, Miss Bocock, your little girl was assaulted by this man. She was taken to the hospital. Bruises were noted. You were told at the time that the man had to be out of the house before you could get your daughter back. Correct?
That's correct.
To make a long story short, the child was with you, and there was a period of time when you had guardianship of the child.
Yes, ma'am.
After she had lived with you for several years as a foster child, and you began receiving welfare for her.
AFDC, yes, ma'am.
To the tune of about $2,000. As the rules of the state are, parents are responsible for the support of their children. So the state pursued you for this welfare money.
Correct.
And you say that there was some sort of an arrangement with your father that he would pay this amount.
Yes.
He says that there was not, the amount wasn't paid, your driver's license was suspended, and your credit ruined.
Yes.
So why don't you tell me about the arrangement with your father?
On June 15th, at the last guardianship hearing,
look at me.
He knew that I had received the summons. I was being sued by the state for the welfare money, for the $2,392. He pulled me aside just before the last hearing and said, I will take care of this matter. I know you can't pay for it. I will take care of it. My lawyer at the time was standing right next to me. I'm a student. I'm a mom. I'm struggling. It's very difficult. It's not that I don't want to pay it back, but he promised to take care of it for me as a father because he knew I was having difficulty. I just started going back to school. I'm in college. I'm nearly completion of my 2-year degree in biology. So I'm very close now, but it's very difficult. I'm financially very strained right now.
So you want to pay the money back because it's your loan.
Right.
It's your debt.
Right. But he promised to take care of it for me. So that's why I'm here today, because I want him to honor that promise to me.
Let me hear your side of this, sir.
Well, ma'am, at no time have I ever said to anyone that I would pay this money either to her or for her. I did have a conversation after one of the guardianship hearings with her lawyer, Mr. Chavers, in which I asked him if he could get me information, a name of the district attorney and a phone number to talk to the person, because if you try and call in the district attorney's office, you get the royal runaround unless you have a case number. Because I had some things I wanted to discuss with him. What I didn't tell him at the time was that I was curious as to why they were charging her, Sandy, more than Jessica had received. And if he assumed from that conversation that I was saying I was going to pay for it, it was a 100% erroneous assumption.
Were you taking the money from the state because you needed it for your granddaughter, sir?
No. We could have supported her without it. In fact, most of the period of the guardianship, we didn't even know that we were eligible to receive it. It was a previous caseworker that said that we could receive that money, and in fact, it went for her daycare.
So how long did you have her in your custody without receiving any support?
I would say in the neighborhood of a year.
Because prior to that, you had foster care money that was
Yes, ma'am.
coming in. Step up, sir.
Your Honor, if
Yes.
I may, at any time during this whole guardianship issue, they knew that they could return my daughter to me with no strings attached. They
Well,
could
Ms.
return
Bocock, I
her.
don't believe that that's absolutely true.
I was absolutely willing to pay every cent to take care of her. I've never had a problem with that. But he promised to pay this amount. He said that he would.
Ms. Bocock, you just said a couple of things that really give me a problem. Let me tell you what they are, madam.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
My parents are lying, selfish people. Extremely selfish people. They have lied my entire life. I wanted him to honor his word this one time.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Bocock is suing her father Bob for money owed to the state for child care of her 9-year-old daughter Jessica. Bob and his wife Barbara claim they looked after the little girl for 6 years and aren't responsible for the money.
If you wanted your daughter back, and you say there was no impediment to you getting your daughter back, and you were no stranger to the family court, all you had to do was to go into court, file your petition to terminate placement and to terminate guardianship, and if there was no impediment, you would have gotten your daughter back. So don't give me a lot of baloney that all they had to do was give her back. She's not a piece of meat. We're not talking about a parakeet.
I understand.
We're talking about a child.
I understand.
You understand that the child was removed from your care for cause by the family court, and the cause was neglect, because they only place children in foster care unless you voluntarily place your child when there is a finding of neglect. Aren't I right, sir?
This was under Arizona law, and I'm not familiar with Arizona law.
Well, Arizona is still part of the United States of America, sir. They do not remove children from parents without cause. Is that a fair statement?
Let me say this, that I've been involved in several cases where the issue of cause was, at best, in question, never substantiated.
That's why you're not the judge. That's why if the judge determines there's cause, a lawyer doesn't second-guess them. I don't care what your view of the evidence was. The state cannot remove a child from a parent unless the parent voluntarily places that child or there is cause. So don't give me a lot of baloney. I've been in this business much longer than you have, sir. And that was my specialty. So if it's not yours, it was mine for 25 years. Now, you want to tell me your recollection of the conversation with Mr. Bocock?
There were two distinct and different conversations. One occurred in the hallway of the court following the hearing on June 15th. That conversation was involving Mr. Bocock, his attorney, the attorney for the minor as well, negotiations going back and forth.
Child had a lawyer.
Correct.
Child's always had a lawyer. They're called a law guardian, correct?
That's right, ma'am.
And the discussion was whether or not the child should be returned to the mother, correct?
Not at that point, no. The discussion was on the timing.
Our attorney had not told us that at this particular hearing, there had been an agreement at the attorney's level that custody would be given back to Sandy. So all at once we're cold-cocked with this idea that we bring Jessica and she takes her home. And we
So
just
you
asked
wanted more of a transition?
Yes, just to the end of the school.
And was that ultimately worked out?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Is that correct?
It was, except for his comment that it was a surprise to them, came as quite a surprise to the counsels involved. We normally work these things out before we appear at court, so the reluctance that was expressed was quite surprising to us.
Well, it's not surprising to me because according to your former client, this conversation took place on the 15th of June. And according to the defendant, grandfather of the child, he said what he wanted was a transition so that the child could at least finish school, which I assume is 2 weeks down the pike at the end of June. Is that correct?
Yes,
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
That strikes you as being odd? The grandfather who's had custody of this child for 6 years says, listen, it's June 15th, school is over June 30th. You know, we need 2 weeks, and aside from the fact she's in school. Does that strike you as being peculiar, sir?
In view of the facts of the time, the fact that we've been discussing the transition for about 6 to 8 months before then, yes.
It did strike you as being odd.
We've been
That's
working.
odd. Does it strike me as being odd to wait 2 weeks until school is over? You have children?
Yes, I do.
Give me a break. All right, so now we're past that. Now we're down to money. Let me hear the conversation about the money.
We had been discussing for months the return of the child to the mother. It was obvious that the grandparents, because of the timing that they had applied for the AFDC payments, was already after the time that we had already discussing returning the child to the mother. There's not an issue of financial need on behalf of the grandparents. It was a matter of timing. At the hearing, the grandfather stated that he would handle the AFDC payments.
Just a second. What you heard is, I will handle it.
The exact verbiage, I'm unsure. What I recall is handle it or words to that effect.
Okay, so you're not as sure what the words were.
Not
Thank you.
the
You can have a
exact
seat.
word. There was another conversation.
Give me the other conversation.
The other conversation in context. Following the hearing on the 15th, I hand-carried all the court documents from the AFDC payments to Mr. Bulcock's attorney the following day, confirmed the fact that Mr. Bulcock was willing to handle the AFDC payments. And
confirmed with whom?
Confirmed to his attorney in the letter that I sent.
Just a second. You sent a letter to the attorney.
Correct.
You have a letter from the attorney to you confirming
No, I do
that?
not. No, I do not have a letter disputing it either.
He doesn't have to dispute it. You have a letter you sent to him and say, here, your client says he's going to take care of this. You have a letter from his attorney that says, that's correct, my client is going to take care of this?
Based on my extensive dealings with his attorney, had that statement been incorrect, I would have received a letter back promptly.
I mean, this is a court, sir. You're a lawyer. You know, you can't rely on that. You sent him a letter. Here, your client said he would take care of this, and he says, what, is he crazy? Takes him and throw in the garbage. You think that he has an obligation to respond to you? He has no legal obligation to respond to you.
But he did, in fact, respond.
How? Let me see.
The response was in the form of a conversation.
That's hearsay.
I understand
with the
that,
attorney.
It's also
Just a
operative
second.
fact.
With the attorney, not with him.
No, I had a conversation with Mr. Bulcock.
Tell me about your conversation with Mr. Bulcock, not a conversation that you had with an attorney that didn't answer your letter.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why did she move away to be with the man who actually is on record of having beat Jessica?
I was emotionally abandoned as a child. Of course I'm going to go seeking emotional comfort from somebody else.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Bocock says her father should be responsible to pay the state money owed for childcare of her 9-year-old daughter, Jessica. Bob Bocock says he took care of Jessica for 6 years and should not be held responsible for the money.
Tell me about your conversation with Mr. Bocock.
He told me to, if I would get the amount due that he had received, he would pay for that. He would reimburse that amount.
Did you ever say that to him, sir?
No, ma'am, I never did. I have a copy of the letter that I sent to my attorney.
Can I see the copy of the letter
In response
that you
to
sent?
the letter that he had hand-delivered to her.
Let me tell you, I've seen this. I saw this letter. Have you seen this letter?
No, I've not.
Let me show it to you, sir. Evidently, there was some sort of a miscommunication. He said his concern was that they were asking her for more money than the child actually received from AFDC, and that the conversations that he had had with both you and his attorney dealt with the fact that he didn't understand why they were seeking more from his daughter than his granddaughter actually received from the state. All right. Listen to me very carefully, Miss Bocock. How old are you?
27.
You made a baby, right?
Yes.
You made a baby at a time that you had no right to make a baby. That you weren't prepared to take care of a baby. But for the fact that your parents took your daughter out of foster care and agreed to become foster parents to this child, there is a very strong probability, based on the fact that this child was out of your care, that your social worker was absolutely correct, that the state would have moved in a proceeding to terminate your parental rights and free the child for adoption. There is no question about that. And you are an intelligent young woman, and you know that. Your daughter is now 7?
She's 9.
9. And how long has she been in your care?
2.5 years.
So for the first 7 years of her life, you supported her with nothing.
I gave her love and emotional support, which is more than they gave her.
No. She was in foster care for a year, which means some strangers gave her love and affection. And then she lived with your mother and father, who were up with her during the night, who wiped her nose when she got sick. If she got an upset stomach, they took care of
Your
her.
Honor, I'm
you were
sorry.
living there?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Yes, I did live there for a couple months.
I'm not talking about a couple of months, madam. How long did
Honor,
your daughter live with your parents?
I don't remember the exact years. She lived with her for a number of years. But why did I end up pregnant at 17? The emotional and physical abuse in that home is unimaginable.
You
it's
better stop
very
blaming other.
bad.
Listen to me. You better stop blaming other people for your life's travails, madam.
I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are. Your father didn't make you pregnant. There are lots of ways to get away from a bad situation. Having a baby is not one of them. There are other avenues. To make a long story short, what the state is now asking you for is $2,000. And they're saying, over the years, the state of California has probably spent $150,000 in foster care payments and administrative fees for your daughter. We're not seeking to recoup that from you now that you're back on your feet. We're seeking to recoup $2,000 from you. That doesn't sound like a lot if you make a baby. $2,000 over 9 years doesn't keep a child in shoes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Ms. Bocock, get your act together. Stop blaming everybody else for your troubles. I mean, your lawyer may think that somebody else is responsible for your troubles. Comes a point, you're 27 years old. You're responsible for your own troubles. And you can work out some sort of a system with the state to take care of this $2,000 that you owe them.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
I have paperwork. Last week, I received papers that they were going to garnish my wages.
Good!
Take my driver's license.
Just a second. Good.
Okay.
They can garnish your wages, and then you know that 10% of your wages are going to go to pay back the obligation that taxpayers in this state paid for your daughter. Now, I'm not quite frankly condoning, Mr. Bocock, the fact that you didn't really have a need for the money, and yet you took money from the state to support your grandchild. And I say that because even though the law gives you the right to do that, I always felt as if you didn't have a need for that and this was your blood, you should do it yourself. But between the two of you, you've got to pay for your child. Not him. It's not his obligation. It's your obligation. So, your lawsuit against your father is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
If she were so concerned about the emotional and physical well-being of her daughter, why did she move 450 miles away to be with her boyfriend who had physically abused her daughter?
I was emotionally abandoned as a child. Of course I'm going to go seeking emotional comfort from somebody else. That doesn't take a psychologist to figure out. He's been in my life for 10 years. He never beat her. My parents are lying, selfish people. Extremely selfish people. They have lied my entire life.
Why did she move away to be with the man who actually is on record of having beat Jessica? She is still with him. We don't know why.
That's all I wanted, was him to honor his word for once in his life. He has never made a promise that he's kept. He's broken promises my whole life. That's all I wanted.
Parties on Campbell versus Nalepsky. Step forward, please.
21-year-old Robert Campbell says during a night of drinking and partying, his former friend Augie Nalepsky broke the passenger window in his van.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 317 on the calendar in the matter of Campbell versus Nalepsky. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
You allege, sir, that the defendant kicked a window out of the back of your truck or car. Is that right?
Yeah.
And it cost you a couple $100 to have it fixed.
Yes, it did.
Why don't you tell me how that happened?
Well, first we started off at my friend's house, and we were going to go to the club that night.
Who's we?
Aggie, the defendant, and I, and Patty. we decided to go to the club, and she started off by drinking
Who's she?
Boone's, the defendant, a Boone's Hill farm.
What is
and,
that?
I don't know, Strawberry Boone's Hill.
Wine.
It's a wine. And then after that, we got in the car, and we drove to Club X, which is in the city, about 45 minutes away. And we got there, and the defendant, started drinking. She drank a cranberry and vodka when we got there. And then we went out and started dancing, Patty and I, and Aggie was there drinking. The defendant was there drinking, standing there. After that, we went back after we stopped dancing, and we came over, and Aggie said she wanted to leave. And I asked her why. And she said, I just want to leave. So I told her, you know, I was like, if I buy you another drink, you going to stay? And so I gave her some money, and she went and bought a Hurricane.
What's a Hurricane?
It's mixed with like 5 or 6 different drinks. Like it's mixed with gin, 151.
What's 150?
Rum.
Rum. And after that, me and Patty went back to dance again, and Aggie went and sat down and started talking to this guy. And I guess she was drinking then, too. She drank a beer or so. I don't know what else she drank, because I wasn't there. I was out there dancing. But I saw her drink a beer. And then after that, after about 20 minutes, we stopped dancing. We came out, and we seen that she was just sitting there. And so after that, we just left. We all left. We got in my car, and we started...
The three of you?
The three of us got in the car. I helped her to the car, actually. And when we were driving on the freeway, she says she's hot. So me and Patty, the witness, rolled down the windows, and she was still hot. So she was trying to open the back window. And
What kind of car do you have?
It's an Astro van. I have a picture of
So it has a back pole window?
It has a side window. And then she proceeds to put her feet on the window to try to open it. And I'm asking the defendant, what is she doing? And by this point, she's pressing on the window very, very hard. And I look back, and as she's doing that, pressing on the window with her feet, like bench pressing it, it breaks. And I went like this, and it was a loud sound, a very loud sound. And I'm all, Aggie, what did you do? And then after that, we drove back to Concord, and as on the way, there was glass all in the car. And I told Aggie more than, I'd say, 6 times to get out of the glass and stop playing with it, because she was playing with it with her hands. That's how intoxicated she was. And I told her to get out of the glass. And she passed out on the seat. So when we got back to Concord, she was telling me, I'm sorry. And I didn't yell, I didn't do anything, because I do that to some people, but we were best friends. So I didn't really understand why she did it, because there was no reason for her to do it.
She did it, according to you, because she was drunk.
Yeah.
So you don't have to understand what happened. Mm-hmm. According to what the menu of alcohol that she imbibed during the course of that evening, she didn't know whether she was in the back of your car or in the Concorde. Mm-hmm. So how much did this window cost you?
$206, and here's the receipt right here.
All right, Aggie, let's hear your end of it.
Well, Your Honor, just to put it blatantly, he did not see me do it. She did not see me do it. They did not hear me kick the window open. As far as I'm concerned, when the window shattered inside of the car, like he said, when you kick out a window, where does the glass go? It goes outside. There was bits of pieces of...
Let's start out with the Hurricane.
Sure. Not a problem.
How old are you?
21. At least I was the only one that was 21 drinking.
Yes, I know.
21.
Mm-hmm.
You know how stupid women look when they get drunk?
Sure.
Do you have any idea of how... Who are you?
I'm her mother.
Well, I'm sure your mother has told you. If she hasn't, she should have. You know, there's nothing more disgusting than a sloppy woman drunk. Sometimes I think sloppier than a man, but maybe that's just because I'm a woman. And if you're 21 years old and you have therefore a license to drink, doesn't mean you have to make a fool of yourself. Now, you were pretty sick. I read your papers. I mean, you felt pretty uncomfortable that evening after you had had so much to drink. Why did you drink until you felt sick?
Why?
Why?
We were all drinking.
I didn't ask a... Listen, I don't care about them.
Okay.
Why did you drink?
Why did I drink?
Until you got...
I didn't get
Lotto.
sick. I didn't get sick. I did not get sick. We were drinking through the whole... We started drinking earlier when we went to Patty's house. We had a shot of E&J. Then we proceeded to go to another party.
I was not at Patty's house.
And then, well, no, you weren't there, but we drove to your house. And then we went to another
You
party.
weren't
Now
even at
sit
my
here and
house.
tell me there were so many people there.
I did not feel too well at the time. That's what you wrote in your answer.
That's right. I didn't feel well, but that doesn't mean that I was to the point where I would kick out somebody's window, causing no scrapes or anything on my leg.
All right.
There was no cause for me to do that. I tried to open the window, but there was no way I could open it because this window was off track in the first place.
It was not off track.
I had my legs propped up.
Next
to the window. Next to the window. So I could be more comfortable. The next thing I recall is glass shattering, flying inside the car. Let me see the bill. Were you there when your daughter got home?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
Now step up here. Tell me your name.
Danuta.
Does your daughter come home intoxicated often?
No.
But this isn't the first time.
Not first.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You know, when you're 21 years old, you're dumb and you do things that are stupid with alcohol. I don't know why people do that when they're young.
And later today,
You seem like a nice person. How a nice person can keep tasting their own foot, I'll never understand.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Campbell claims his former friend, Augie Nalepsky, was highly intoxicated when she broke the window in his van and wants her to pay for it. Augie denies breaking the window.
Aggie, you're going to do what you want to do. You know, when you're 21 years old, you're dumb and you do things that are stupid with alcohol. I don't know why people do that when they're young. But I'm going to tell you this. Aside from looking terrible when you're 21 years old or when you're 20 years old or when you're 51 years old and you've had too much to drink, you were lucky this time that all you caused was a little damage to his car. I'm not going to play Sherlock Holmes. You're in that car. You're in the back of the car. You got your legs propped up against the glass. You're drunk. The window shatters. I don't need proof beyond a reasonable doubt that you're the one who caused it. All I need here is some evidence more than not that you caused the damage to the car. And I find that you did. So you owe him $206. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank you.
All right, it's our excuse. You may step out.
No problem.
You got the back door to your right.
And now the next case.
Party's on Floyd versus Kleiman. Step forward, please.
Disc jockey Michael Floyd says party planner Denny Plyman stole his watch and broke their agreement for Michael to DJ at a gay disco.
Mr. Floyd, you're a DJ.
Yes, ma'am.
You do that full-time, sir?
No, ma'am.
What do you do full-time?
I'm an office manager.
But Saturday nights or Sunday, you go and operate one of those machines that you have at parties and play music.
Sometimes Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay. Mr. Plyman, you, sir, are a party planner.
That's correct.
And according to your complaint, sir, you are suing the defendant for breach of contract. You say that you had a contract to perform your services as a DJ for him, and he canceled that contract. So tell me about it.
Yes, ma'am. We had an agreement to do, I was the head DJ. There would be one other DJ.
Incorrect.
Mr. Plyman, let's understand the ground rules.
Okay.
He talks, then you talk.
All right.
Then I decide. Go.
I was the head DJ. That's what we had decided. We had sat down while he was planning this event. It was called Detour at this other club, and there was another DJ who would DJ on the one Sunday a month that I would not make it. And we had
That's incorrect. He only DJ'd the first 4 out of 12 detours, so he wasn't DJing 3 out of 4 weeks.
Mr. Plyman, what word didn't you understand that I said before?
All right.
He talks, then you talk, then I decide. So don't interrupt again.
All right.
Good. How many, what's the word, gig?
Gig.
That would be good.
That would be good?
Yeah. We're in agreement.
My children would be proud of me.
We're in agreement there.
How many gigs do you claim you contracted for with the defendant?
May I look? I have a list of them. I don't know them off. There were so many. It was over like a 5-month period.
Well, you're not suing for the whole 5 months.
I'm suing for the ones that were canceled.
How many did you actually perform?
I think it was about a month or 2.
4.
He has a problem. He really doesn't understand. I'm not going to penalize him because there must be a screw loose or something.
I agree.
Well, I've got the exact figure. It's 4. It's a very simple question.
You'll tell me that in a minute, but right now, you see, I was focused on him, Mr. Plyman. Mr. Floyd, do you have a written contract with him?
No, ma'am, we don't.
Well, if you were going to have an employment contract that went beyond, say, a month or 2, it would seem to me that if you are in this business as a profession, even if it's a part-time profession, that you have something in writing. Wouldn't that sound right to you?
Yes, ma'am. Normally I do.
Yes.
But Denny was my best friend, and I was helping him get a business started.
Right.
And I didn't feel that I needed that, but I do have from my date book that he and I sat down and booked these dates.
Yes.
So that's the only actual evidence that I have, and I'm just hoping that he will feel the need to tell the truth.
Well, when you sat down and booked the events with him, what kind of parties were these, by the way, that you were booking?
They're tea dances, which is a dance on Sunday afternoon. It's disco music. We do it at a country western bar, but once a week we do a regular disco fun music, not country music.
And it's called a tea dance.
It's called a tea dance. It's on Sunday afternoons. It
No
starts
booze.
at 5 o'clock. No, yeah, there's plenty of booze.
Oh, so why do they call it a tea dance?
That's the name for the booze.
I can tell you why.
Yes.
It goes back a long time. About 20 years ago, people used to get together on a Sunday, and they would dish other people or tell the tea, gossip, and that's where
that I understand.
Right.
That's where.
Okay.
After they've been to the beach all day, or who was with whoever the night before, and things along that line.
So that's where the name the tea dance came from, and it escalated into where they'd have a DJ and there'd be dancing, and people would have to have fun.
Sounds like fun.
It is.
Now, you were running these things, so you were like a promoter.
That's correct. It's my production.
And I assume that you will agree, Mr. Plyman, that at the beginning, when you set up this process, you did in fact sit down with Mr. Floyd. You were good friends.
We were.
And say, we're going to do these for 6 months.
That's right.
And these are the Sundays. Is that right?
That's correct. And it's one thing that's important to show is he's been paid for every service that he has performed.
I don't think that he's questioning that.
Okay.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
You were paid each time that you went.
Exactly.
How much were you paid, by the way?
Sometimes it was $200, sometimes $230, sometimes $220.
Well, actually, that's the only thing we do have an agreement on. We sat down and did make a written agreement on that, and what we paid him was $235, and I've got a copy of that.
Can I see that, please?
What that included was his services, and then I paid for him to take the Amtrak down to San Diego and back, and then I either paid for his lodging or he stayed at my home.
Now, is this a writing that you entered into? Just take a look at it.
That would be our agreement that we based on what we said. One of the other things that's important is he said in his opening that he was the head DJ. That's in his mind.
Would you look at that, sir? I asked you a question. Mr. Plyman doesn't know where he is. I'm going to remind him of that in a minute.
No, ma'am. This is not.
Michael,
Just
this
a
was
second.
made up
Mr.
afterwards,
Plyman,
obviously.
you never saw that before?
No.
That's a lie. We agreed to that.
Well,
that was
just
your
a second.
payment.
Mr. Plyman, if you talk to him again, sir, I'm going to end this lawsuit. And so far you're winning, but you're coming so close to losing because you don't know when to shut up that it's really very sad because a trial is supposed to be a search for the truth. When a litigant who seems to be winning keeps shooting himself in the foot and yet appears to be an intelligent man, I don't understand that.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Mr. Plyman, I'm going to give you some really good advice, sir. When you try to take over Judge's playpen, you're always going to lose.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. DJ Michael Floyd says party planner Denny Plyman broke their agreement for Michael to DJ at a gay disco. Denny claims he had every right to fire Michael and owes him nothing.
Mr. Plyman, one of the problems with this, sir, is I'm going to tell you what that is. I'm not going to consider it. He says he's never seen it before. And if, in fact, this was your agreement and you're a businessman, what you should have done was you sign it and have him sign it.
I understand that.
But, Mr. Floyd, do you have any proof of any engagements that you actually turned down at or about the time that your agreement, not contract, but agreement with the defendant was terminated?
Do I have any proof?
Yes.
Not with me, Your Honor. I had turned down San Diego Gay Pride because he told me that I was going to work for him for 2 events that he was doing. He was doing 4, I think, and I was going to do 2 of them.
I had offered, when we first had our disagreement, he brought up the idea that, you know, as somewhat of a severance pay, that I pay him $200 to afford him like 2 weeks down the road. He had a date. And me being a new businessman, a small businessman, I thought, you know what, I really want to do the right thing here. So I thought about it a couple days, and then I called him back, and I said, you know, I would be happy to send you that $200. But I asked one thing. I said, I'm going to need you to sign an agreement. I finally clicked in and understood that I probably should have an agreement at this point in time, that this will be the end of our, I put the payment of $200 in 2 $200 increments will be paid by May 31st and is provided as a goodwill gesture by Denny Plyman, owner of Focus Events. This payment will finalize our working relationship and any monies due of this date. And it's at that point that he got all pissed off. Like I didn't trust him because I felt like he would take me to court or something, and he wouldn't sign that. Now, he never saw this, but I read it to him over the phone because I was going to send it to him, have him sign it, and send it back to me, and then I would have sent him the money.
That's also not entirely true, Your Honor.
Well, not entirely true, but did you call and discuss with him some sort of solution to this problem?
I attempted. He never did. I attempted on several occasions to call him. At that point...
How you could say I didn't attempt to make a solution is incredible. I have it written right here.
That's not proof. That could have been written at any time.
Mr. Floyd, he did in fact offer you a couple of $100s to resolve this issue.
Yes,
and
at his suggestion.
And he did. You seem like a nice person. How a nice person can keep tasting their own foot, I'll never understand. I'll never understand.
This is an indication of our relationship through the whole time. It was
Mr.
anytime
Floyd,
I tried to
then
put something
then
in.
that's your problem, sir. I mean, you know, you chose to work for him.
I'm one of the top DJs in Southern California.
How could you be a top DJ in Southern California, Mr. Floyd?
I'm sorry?
In his own mind, Your Honor.
Oh, Mr. Plyman, I tried to be very nice to you, sir. The truth of the matter is, you're your own worst enemy.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
He's suing you for $2,500? Is that what you're suing him for?
Yes, ma'am.
$2,500? I was originally going to give you nothing. He helped me. I'm going to give you $1,000. That takes care of 5 weeks' worth of work.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Do you understand? That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'll be back to it to your right.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
That's all I wanted. I wanted the truth to come out, and once again, his mouth got him in trouble.
I had other DJs that I worked with also. You weren't the only game in town.
I was the only DJ other than John that you ever used at that T-dance.
That's incorrect. Since then, I've used 5 other DJs.
Yeah, because you fired me.
That's
Who did you use before me?
I'm glad. I hope I never have to see him again.
All parties on Schaefer versus Buchanan. Step forward, please.
25-year-old schoolteacher Amy Schaefer says her former boyfriend, marine mechanic Andre Buchanan, 23, owes her for a cell phone and rent. Andre says they were gifts.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 288 on the calendar in the matter of Schaefer versus Buchanan. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Loan gift. Loan gift. Is that where we're at?
Yep.
How long did you date?
About 3 or 4 months, something like that.
And during that time, Miss Schaefer, for some ungodly reason, you gave him money.
I never handed him any money.
You hooked up a phone for him at his request, according to you.
Yes.
And paid a phone bill
Yes.
of $400.
$330, yes.
So you didn't, in fact, hand him the money, but you paid this bill.
Yes.
Is that a cell phone or a regular phone?
Cellular phone.
Cellular phone. What do you need a cellular phone for, sir?
She got it so she can get a hold of me. She wanted to keep
That's
constant
why.
tabs on me.
Just a second. Well, that may be, that's what you say in your answer, but if there's a $330 bill on the phone, you were using the phone a little bit yourself.
Yeah, I have said I would pay the bill for both phones as long as we kept the contract, but the store said 3 months and the company said a year. But she turned it off and said, well, you can have it back if we get back together.
You told her that you would pay the bill.
Right? If it stayed on for the contract.
What difference does that make, sir? If you told her you were going to pay the bill and then you were no longer dating, which is, I assume, when all this trouble came about, and then she turned off the phone because you were no longer dating, you were no longer together, and she didn't want to be attached to you, nor you to her, I assume, by virtue of this cell phone, right?
Right.
So don't you think that that was smart?
What was smart?
That she turned off the phone and said, you want another cell phone? Go get one.
Yeah, and I got one.
So you got another cell phone, but meanwhile, you used this phone $330 worth.
Wasn't that much. It was the combined bill. Mine was only 120, 140 or something like that.
Is that right?
That was between the two bills. But he told me when we got the phones, he told me he would pay for both phones if I got it in my name.
And if
Okay,
we
so
stayed,
just a second.
if it
Just a
stayed,
second. But that was in anticipation of you having a long and happy life together, right? I just want to know what his bills were.
I have them here.
What
Mark.
was his bill? Because I'm not going to have him pay for your bill, but what was his bill? I'm not going to weasel out of his bill. Are you?
yeah, actually.
You're going to have to do a lot of weaseling, Mr. Buchanan.
$137.32.
137. 32. Okay, so that's the phone. Now let's talk about the other bill for rent. And when did he ask you to pay his rent? How much into this romance did he ask you to pay his rent?
July 3rd.
And how long had you known him?
We met Memorial Day weekend.
So 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Why did you pay his rent?
He asked me to pay, if I would pay his rent. He knew I wasn't comfortable with that. But he pushed me, made me feel a little guilty.
What did he say?
Oh, my gosh.
What did he say?
He said, if you can't pay my rent, we can't go camping, this kind of stuff. And I said, okay, I'll pay your rent. He said, I promise I'll have it back to you in full by July 17th.
That's a lie.
This was the 3rd. No, it's not.
That's a damn lie.
This is not a lie.
Okay. Were you having trouble paying your rent, sir?
No, I just couldn't. No.
So why didn't you pay it?
Because I was supposed to get a check and I didn't get it.
So you were having a problem
Nope.
paying your rent on
Nope,
time.
I just wasn't. I was going to have to wait, not go camping that weekend, and pay it on Sunday.
Mr. Buchanan, how does she know that you're having a problem paying your rent?
Because I said I didn't get my check.
So you were having... He thinks he can two-step faster than I can.
He don't know you very well.
Mr. Buchanan, sir, on your best day, you're not as good as I am on my worst day. Do you understand?
Well,
all right?
I'll try.
No, you can try. You can
keep
try from
trying.
today till tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're out with your girlfriend of a few weeks, and you do tell her that you were having trouble paying your rent.
No.
Thinking.
No, I told her I can't go camping. I had to stay home. I can't spend any money. She said, I'll pay your rent.
How did rent come into it?
I never asked her to pay your rent.
How did rent come into it?
I said I can't spend any money because I had to wait for this check and pay for my rent.
Okay, so you were having trouble with your rent.
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess so. Now, so we got that. And she said what?
She said, I'll pay your rent.
You were having all this trouble, you said, because a check that you were expecting hadn't come in yet.
Right.
What check was that?
It was just a back paycheck.
A paycheck
Paycheck.
that was owing to you,
Right.
that you got,
Right.
but you were going to get it a little late.
Right.
That was your problem.
Right.
So you got your paycheck. What'd you do with the money?
I put it in my account.
Why didn't you give her back the rent money?
Because I never asked her to do it. I never told her I would pay her back.
Oh, just a second. Ms. Schaefer, how much was the rent?
$555. I have a tape here, which I'd like you to hear.
What is the tape going to tell me, Ms. Schaefer,
tape
that I
is-
don't already know about this young man?
It's going to have him admitting that he owes me money.
Here, just a second. I didn't even want to hear it.
Okay.
I have just determined that he owes you the money.
Okay.
Oh.
I also have a check from him in the amount of $700.
Oh,
Reported
but
lost
let
or
me tell you
stolen.
about this check. She comes over to my house with her mom to my grandparents' house on a family reunion weekend. We have family from out of town. She comes over, her and her mom threatens, oh, we're going to call the police. We're calling your probation officer.
Oh, you have a probation officer.
Yeah, I have a probation officer. Not
What
no
do you
more.
mean, yeah, you have a probation officer. And not everybody in this room has a probation officer, sir. What are you on probation for?
Oh, I'm on not on probation no more. I was
What were
on
you
for
on probation?
fighting.
For fighting.
Yeah.
As far as I know, fighting is not a crime in this country. So you were on probation for an assault.
Assault.
That's right. So what you're going to tell me, Mr. Buchanan, is that because she and her mother came over during a reunion weekend and made certain threats, you gave her a check for $700, which I
Yes, I
assume
felt-
she had, and then you went and called the bank and stopped payment
Right,
on
and
it.
counted
It wasn't a stop payment.
Miss
It was-
Schaefer, he called the bank and said the check was lost or stolen. That's what you wrote in
Yep.
your statement.
It's stamped.
Doesn't make any difference.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She did it herself. I never asked her to do it.
Lie.
Just a second,
She
Mr.
did it herself.
Buchanan. Character, sir.
I got it.
Character.
I was just
You
being
are a
late.
character.
And later today,
She had called 911, told the police department on the dispatch line that I called her stating that I had a gun, that I was coming over to her apartment and I was going to shoot her.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Amy Schaefer and Andre Buchanan split up. Amy says he owes her for 2 loans. Andre says she gave him a cell phone and paid his rent as gifts.
Character is what one looks for in a mate. Clearly, he has no character. He may be a character.
So is she. She's just as big
she
as
may
Bugs
be
Bunny.
She may be, sir. And if you think that she's a little dipsy, is that what you think?
Yep, a little, a lot.
Well, you may think she's a little dipsy, but this little dipsy lady laid out some money for you.
No, she did it herself. I never asked her to do it.
Lie.
Just a second,
She
Mr.
did it herself.
Buchanan. Character, sir.
I got it.
Character.
I was just
You
being
are a
late.
character. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $692.32. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Did a Linda trap and got some recordings of me that I didn't authorize.
When you lend somebody money and they've told you they're going to pay you back, and it's apparent that they owe you money, then it's only right to get the money back.
And now the next case.
Parties on Wood versus Beardsley. Step forward, please.
41-year-old accounting clerk Karen Wood says motion picture salesman Alfred Beardsley, 36, agreed to pay her half the fee he received for selling photos of Anna Nicole Smith to a tabloid newspaper. Alfred says they never had a deal.
Miss Wood,
Yes.
you and the defendant are neighbors.
Yes.
You live in the same building complex?
Our buildings are right next to each other.
According to your complaint, the defendant came to you one evening and told you that he had gotten word that some celebrity actress was across the street in the parking lot of this supermarket sitting with somebody and drinking alcohol.
Yes.
And he wanted to borrow some film from you so that he could go and take pictures of her to sell them.
Yes.
Is that right? So you accommodated him, but not only did you give him the film, but you took your camera with film in it, and you went outside to the parking lot and snapped a whole roll of film of this unsuspecting celebrity who was there, having what I assume she hoped was a private moment. Right? And then he went and sold those pictures to one of the tabloids. And you were paid how much?
$1,000.
And you want half of that?
Yes, because we had agreed that for whatever money he got from that we would split it 50-50.
Didn't you have a problem with taking pictures of this person and invading her privacy?
Well, actually, she was in a public parking lot, and she was in the car, and they were, putting beer cans outside the car. I mean, it's not that I went on her property, and I didn't go into a restaurant or a bar where she was. She was out in the public, and even the clerks of the store, everybody was outside watching her.
Have you ever done this sort of thing before, sir?
I have sold photographs to news organizations and syndicated organizations. I haven't done stakeouts or things of that nature.
But you've sold photographs of celebrities, you mean?
Yes.
Let's address your counterclaim. You're counterclaiming for $5,000 because you say she has harassed you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And has filed a false police report against you.
Yes, Your Honor.
So let's get to your counterclaim first.
Well, ever since the photos were taken, she would come to my residence on her lunch hour, after work, every single day.
And say what?
Inquiring as to if
What
I had
happened?
sold the film.
So?
So I kept her updated as best as I could until she became annoying me. It was every single day. It was in the evening. It was late in the evening as well. I pitched them to one major tabloid. They had a problem that 4 of the key shots were out of focus.
Not interested in that.
Okay. Anyways, they declined them. I got a second pitch at another major.
I'm not interested in all that. You sold the pictures.
I sold the pictures.
I'm talking about your harassment claim against her for $5,000. So she's coming to your house. She's asking you what happened. You got a pitch. You finally sold the pictures. Harassment.
When we did the agreement for the pictures, all she wanted at that time was a set of prints.
Mr. Beardsley, are you withdrawing your counterclaim for harassment?
No, I'm not.
Then stick to the harassment.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
So here we had these people doing the following for you, using their camera, their film, drove you to this place, all in exchange for nothing.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Karen Wood claims Alfred Beardsley owes her for half the money for selling photos of Anna Nicole Smith. Alfred is countersuing Karen for filing a false police report.
Just tell me about what the harassment is.
She would post notes on my door where everyone could see when I wasn't home. She would stand at my door and have a complete conversation with my door. Just saying, Al, this isn't fair. Give me some money, so on and so forth. I finally called her back. I said, Karen, we've got to stop this. We've got to come to some agreement. She said, F you, pay me, and hung up. I called again. F you, just pay me, hung up. 3 more times. F you, pay me, hang up. 20 minutes went by. I'm in my living room. I see 2 police officers walk fast past my apartment. Turns out that she had called 911, told the police department on the dispatch line that I called her stating that I had a gun, that I was coming over to her apartment and I was going to shoot her. In the meantime, she recants her story to the police officer saying, well, I thought...
Did she come out at that time?
Oh, her and her mom were out there.
Okay, so she came outside
Yeah.
while the police were there.
Correct.
You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Had you called the police that day?
Yes.
Okay. And you heard her recant the story.
Yes.
What did you hear her say?
She said, well, I thought he said at one point that he had a gun, and he never actually threatened me with a gun, but I thought he had one because there was a problem a year ago where a silent alarm went off at his house, and the police were pounding at his door at midnight, and he made a statement that he was so scared that he felt like shooting through the door.
What did you told the police when you called 911?
I was walking past his house with my mother and walking the dog, and I yelled, Al, when are you going to pay me the money? Well, he went across the street and called on the payphone, and he said, do you and your mom think that you're smarter than me? I said, Al, why don't you just pay me the money? And he kept saying things and hanging up. Well, I picked up the phone, and I was beginning to call my mom, but I didn't hear it ring, and I guess he had called back, and he said, I'll kill you before I pay you. So I did call 911. They did ask me at 911 if he had a gun, and I said, I don't believe so. I don't see any weapon on him. He just called and said that, you know, what I just told you.
Did you ever say you were going to kill her?
No, Your Honor, I did not say that.
What did you say, sir?
I couldn't get a word in. She kept hanging up on me. And finally, I gave up. And she took the liberty of calling the police.
All right. Mr. Beardsley, let me understand this, sir. You got a tip that this actress was across the street.
Correct.
You had no film.
I had no film.
You knocked on her door. She left whatever she was doing in her home, took her camera and her film, and went out to the parking lot. And she was the one who physically took the pictures. Granted, at your direction, you told her what to shoot, where to shoot it, and whatever, and she was the technician. She shot the roll of film.
Correct.
So far, is that correct?
Correct.
And then she also drove you to this tabloid where you went up to make the pitch.
That's incorrect.
Are you telling me that neither she or, according to this, her mother drove you to one of the places?
Her mother drove me to the first pitch.
Just a second.
Okay.
So here we had these people doing the following for you, using their camera, their film, and according to you, if I believe you, her mother took you in her car, drove you to this place, all in exchange for nothing.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Let me tell you what my judgment is. I am awarding you the $500 that you request for half of the money he got for publishing these pictures. Don't smile yet. Okay. I am totally disapproving of what both of you did with regard to invading someone else's, what I consider privacy. The fact that you are in your own car, even if you're out in a public parking lot, I don't necessarily believe that people who enjoy a certain celebrity have to feel as if somebody's going to come stalking around them and make money off of them, off of their private moments. So I am awarding you $500 from his $1,000. On your counterclaim, sir, that she called the police for no reason on you, I think that that's terrible. And I don't believe you had a reason to call the police. On him! Quiet. And I don't believe that you had a reason to call the police. So I am awarding you on your counterclaim, sir, $500, which means that you're even. Neither one of you gets anything. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I noticed blood dripping from my head.
A catfight in the high school bathroom.
You work after school? You're gonna sue.
Judge Judy Justice.
Obviously, I'm not happy, but $500 is $500.
I wasn't stalking him. He was asking me to come over and he would pay me. He didn't borrow my camera. I took the pictures, and he kept asking me, what are you going to spend the money on? How are you going to spend your $500? Why don't we go to Las Vegas? You're not really going to pay bills with it, are you? He even told me before he likes holding my money.
On Thomas versus Lewis. Step forward, please.
27-year-old security guard John Thomas says his former friend Denise Lewis filed false charges of sexual harassment against him, causing him to be fired from his job.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 306 on the calendar in the matter of Thomas versus Lewis. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Thomas, your lawsuit alleges that the defendant filed false allegations against you of sexual harassment, causing you, at least temporarily, to lose your job,
Yes.
and suffer all kinds of emotional trauma and stress and embarrassment.
Yes.
Did you work together in the same office?
No, ma'am.
Well, tell me how you knew her.
We cordially met in the lobby area, and
In the lobby of a building where you both worked?
yes,
What kind of work were you doing?
I'm in the security field.
So you were a security officer.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And, from time to time we spoke, and then every now and then we went to lunch, socialized and talked everything. And everything was pretty cool. There was a
There
situation.
came a time when you alleged that you lent money to the defendant.
Yes.
And that precipitated her making these allegations against you.
Yes.
Well, tell me about that, sir.
Okay. Well, as I said, she was having some problems. And she asked my assistance as far as loaning her some money for a motel that she had wanted to stay in to relocate from the current place she was at. And so, I went and I assisted her in that matter. She stayed there for a couple of weeks.
How much money did you actually loan her?
Well, it wasn't a direct cash flow. I utilized my a credit card, so I would be able to keep a record in the future.
How much?
$250.
Okay. $250.
Yes, $250.88.
Okay, so you helped her out with the motel from moving from one place to another.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Then at that time her apartment was ready, and she again asked my assistance to help her relocate to the apartment. Well, she didn't have the funds required to rent out the truck, so she asked if I could utilize my credit to rent the truck out, and then once we've completed the move, she would reimburse me of the initial truck use funds.
And how much was that altogether?
Altogether, that was $57.24 for the truck and $6.25 for gas to refuel the truck.
Now, did she pay you back any of this money?
No.
So there came a time when you started to ask her for the money.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Okay, the disagreement arose around the time when we were trying to negotiate a way to return the truck. Well, apparently she was agitated because I didn't want to loan her my credit card and so she can return the truck and then return the credit card back to me. So that pretty much fueled the disagreement. Well, to pretty much separate myself, I said, well, go ahead, return the money that you owed me. This is the money that you owed me, and we'll just go our separate ways. She responded in a threatful manner, basically stating that, if you don't leave me alone, you're going to regret that you ever met me. So I left it alone Sunday, and Monday morning I called her again, once again trying to see if we can't negotiate this in a mature manner. She wouldn't speak to me, so what I did is I conjured up a letter to her and just basically broke down everything that she had owed me.
Okay, so you sent her a letter.
Yes.
When did she make these allegations against you of sexual harassment?
I sent the letter to her Monday, and the allegations were brought to my attention that Thursday.
Okay. To make a long story short,
Yes.
the charges were subsequently all dismissed.
Yes.
But you had to be transferred to a different location. You took a decrease in pay according to your papers. Is that
yes,
right?
What had happened is that they had pretty much put me in rover status, where I worked at certain assignments for the going price that they were
So
paying
you earned
officers.
less, Mr.
Yes.
Thomas. You earned less. But you're suing her for $5,000, clearly much more than this. And the reason you're suing her for $5,000 is because you say she wrongfully made these accusations against you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Let me hear from you.
Well, Your Honor, first of all, we did work in the same building. When I met John, I told him from the beginning that I'm not looking for anyone. Okay, I moved out here from another state. I came out in January. I secured a job in February. Then we met, I think, in March. He would come up to me, give me candy, walk with me while I was on break, and I told him strictly that I just wanted a platonic friendship and nothing more. John continued to, everywhere I was, he seemed to automatically show up. He was a friend to me. You know, we went out a couple times to the movies. I never asked John for any help of any type of monetary source because I make 3 times more money than he makes, okay? I never asked John for any money. He insisted that he knew where I was staying at a motel downtown. I was happy with that. I knew I was going to stay there until I secured an apartment, which is what I did. But the reason he wanted me to move because he did not have access to me the way that he wanted access to me, because it was a security building and there was no visitors allowed in the building. So he suggested to me that I move to another motel in Culver City.
This is the first hotel that you were in?
This is the first hotel that I was at. This is the hotel I planned to stay at until I found my apartment. He knew I was looking for an apartment. He knew I was looking for a car. He went around and got numbers for apartments. Oh, you should move here. He even went to his complex, suggested I go there, and I decided the same day not to move there because he was...
Stop for a second.
Okay.
Sound like a very intelligent, together lady. Right? And you just told me that you were really happy with where you were staying, and you were going to stay there until you found a permanent apartment.
Right.
But you moved.
Right.
Into a different motel.
Right.
One that he was happier with.
Right. I moved.
Why?
Because it was closer to my job. Right now, I had an hour-and-a-half commute from downtown to Westwood.
So?
And I decided to take his offer up because it was nicer, it was closer to my job.
Fine.
Okay.
And he laid out some money for you.
No, he did not. I was paying a certain weekly amount of rent by the week where I was. I had that money. Only thing he had to put with the money was another $40.
Whether it was $40 or 40 pennies.
Okay.
According to him, it was $250.88. According to you, it was $40. You just told me that you earned 3 times as much money as he did. Why in the world would you take $40 from him? Why?
Because I did not have the money at the time. I was between pay periods.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I have a greeting card from her, and the title says, "To the man of my dreams."
Once I dreamed of someone special. Now I know that I was dreaming of you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Thomas says his former friend Denise Lewis falsely accused him of sexual harassment. Denise says John is angry because their friendship never turned into romance.
Now, when did you make this report of sexual harassment?
After the week after I moved into my apartment.
Why?
Because he tried to force himself on me after we moved the refrigerator and the bedroom furniture into my apartment.
Well, tell me about that, madam.
Okay, after the things were moved into the apartment, he laid down on we put everything in the living room because I had to paint the bedroom. He laid down on the mattress and he called me in there and he threw me down on the mattress and started making sexual moves on me. And it took me about a couple minutes to push him off of me, and I asked him to leave.
And he left?
After some screaming and yelling, and yes, he did.
What kind of screaming and yelling?
I was screaming to get out of my apartment, that you don't live here.
And he left?
After some time, and he left when he got ready to leave.
So that's when you filed a complaint of sexual harassment against him?
Not only for that reason, was because the Saturday morning when he was supposed to come back and get the truck, I asked him to leave. We had an argument. I asked him to leave.
So you still have the truck?
The truck is still there. He has the keys to the truck.
Okay. So he said, so he had his car and he wanted you to help him take the truck back.
Right.
And what happened then?
I didn't open the door for him.
Why?
Because I was upset with him because of what he had tried to do. Okay, he never came to me and asked me to try and work things out, to try and say, okay, I owe you this money, let's try and make some type of arrangements. The next thing I knew, he had left a letter on the counter of where I work, and it was a bill for how much he assumed that I owe him.
So tell me when you made this allegation of sexual harassment, after you got the bill?
No, I made it like a few days later because he was calling and harassing me at work.
He was
for like
calling and asking you for what?
He was calling, he said he wanted to get together and talk. And I said, I don't want anything else to do with you because of your behavior, because you have been harassing me.
When did you make that statement to him?
I made it on Monday. And I asked him not to call me again, and that I will pay him his money.
So did you pay him the money?
No, I did not. Because
Why?
Because he kept harassing me.
Just a minute. Why didn't you pay him the money? Maybe if you paid him the money, he would stop harassing you. Maybe if you paid him the bill, he would feel as if he wasn't so used.
Yeah.
And then he would leave you alone.
Yeah, well, maybe if he had come to me as an adult and not someone threatening me with gang violence and I'm going to get the Bloods to kill you and this and that, maybe if would have come to me in an appropriate manner, I would have been more than happy to settle with him, just like I tried to call him 2 weeks ago. And I asked him, why did you file this lawsuit against me? And I said, can we come to some kind of agreement because I want this to go away? And his comment was, after several moments of silence at 27 years old, was, you started it.
Well, Miss Lewis, you started it. Let me tell you something. I'm a woman, and I take allegations of sexual harassment in the workplace very seriously. But I resent it when women use allegations of sexual harassment as one-upmanship. And I'm telling you right now, the story that's coming through my head is an older lady with a lot more experience has a guy 5, 6 years younger than she is who is clearly smitten with her. And what's coming out of her mouth is, no, no, yes, yes. No, no, yes, yes.
No.
You let him move you into another apartment? You're a smart lady. All you had to do was say, I'm happy where I am, John. I don't mind having coffee with you when we're here. You seem like a nice young man, but, you know, this is not a romantic thing. So you let him help you out once. And instead of doing the nice thing, the right thing, by totally cutting him off so that you fair to him, you're not playing mind games with his head. You call him again when you need help. So he's saying to himself, she really likes me. I don't care what she says. She's letting me rent a truck with her and move her stuff into her apartment and help her place the furniture where it is. So clearly, she may be saying no, no, but her eyes are saying yes, yes.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She strategically planned it to where I lost out on a promotion. I lost out on a raise.
Oh.
And, you know,
from $5 to $7. Wow.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Security guard John Thomas is suing Denise Lewis for defamation after she accused him of sexual harassment.
You're in your apartment. The furniture and the refrigerator are all set. Then you want no part of him. Well, he doesn't know that, so then he calls you and says, now I feel used, now I want my money. Your response was to file allegations of sexual harassment against him. I don't hear any sexual harassment, madam. He moved you into your apartment. He thought you were encouraging him. He left when you told him to leave. You may say you yelled and screamed, but I don't believe that there was any kind of attempted rape there. I don't believe that for 1 second. And your response was to try to injure him in his profession, which was a security guard. That's not fair.
Just because two people are friends does not mean that, okay, just because one party wants to go forward with a relationship and the other doesn't, that's not, I don't think that's encouraging.
Miss Lewis, you know that he wants romance and you don't. You don't use him.
He took advantage of me.
Oh, baloney.
He did. He knew that I lived out here by myself.
Nobody takes advantage of you, madam. I've known you for 5 minutes, and I can tell you right now, nobody takes advantage of you if you don't want that to happen. You took advantage of him. And the right thing to do was to let him know unequivocally from the beginning, this is not going anywhere, and not do anything to encourage him. Nothing to encourage him. And what you did was encourage him by continuing to allow him into your life. You have something you want me to hear? Is that why you brought that?
Yes, due to her statement, She says that she never made any attempt to encourage me or whatnot. Here I have a greeting card from her, dated April 4th, and the title says, "To the Man of My Dreams."
Can I see it?
So,
Just a minute. Show this to the defendant and tell her if that signature looks familiar to her.
Yes, it does.
Uh-huh.
This card was not intended for him.
Well, why don't you tell me how you got this card, sir?
She gave me the card around that time. This was the envelope that she gave it to me in.
Can I see it, please? Why don't you try to explain that to me, Miss Lewis? How did he come into possession of a card that wasn't meant for him? Why don't you try to tell me that?
He took it out of my briefcase when he was giving me a ride to work. That card was not intended for him.
Who was it intended for?
Someone else.
Someone else who also moved furniture?
No.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Once I dreamed of someone special, now I know that I was dreaming of you.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
I have never been interested in him. You know, I'm not interested in overweight men.
You used him, Miss Lewis. And then in order to get rid of him, you filed a complaint against him for sexual harassment. Oh, yes, that's exactly what you did. And you injured him. You injured him in his job. You had him moved from his job. He suffered embarrassment. He suffered humiliation. And at least something else that I find equally as disturbing is we have finally reached a point in this country, the end of this century, where we do not permit people of either sex to be sexually harassed in their workplace. And unfortunately, it's because of ladies like you that people look at these lawsuits and wonder if they are all real. That diminishes the real allegations of sexual abuse and of sexual harassment in the workplace. It's not supposed to be used as a hammer to solve all the problems that you have. It's supposed to be used sparingly and when it's true.
You don't know that it's not true?
Oh, I know that it's not true, madam. I know that you used him.
That's not true.
You used him. You knew he was smitten with you. You used him. And when you were finished with him and he wouldn't leave you alone, in order to get rid of him so that you didn't have to look at him anymore, you filed an allegation of sexual harassment against him that was ultimately investigated and dismissed because you have been reinstated, correct?
And it was not the first of its kind.
I haven't asked you about your history either. Right? Whether this is a modus operandi for you. We understand each other, Miss Lewis? I am awarding you $2,500, Mr. Thomas. And I hope that it serves as a lesson. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
We had a difference in opinions, but I have never, not once, insulted her. And that seems to be the only thing that she's capable of doing.
His girlfriend left him for another woman. He's obviously insufficient as a mate and as a man.
All parties on Corder versus Dillon. Step forward, please.
Collectors Janice and John Corder claim auctioneer H. Matt Dillon sold them fake Beanie Babies. The auctioneer says he always gives a disclaimer at the beginning of the sale.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Ma'am. Judge, this is case number 303 on the calendar in the matter of Corder versus Dillon. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. and Mrs. Corder, you went to an auction that was being run by the defendant, and at that auction, according to your complaint, you purchased a bunch of Beanie Babies.
Yes.
Now, I've never seen any of these things, although I've heard about them, so you're going to show them to me, of course. And your complaint alleges that you purchased these as collector's items, you know,
yes, ma'am.
rare Beanie Babies. You purchased them as rare Beanie Babies because the defendant here said that they were rare Beanie Babies.
Yes, ma'am.
And they turned out to be ordinary Beanie Babies.
No, fake.
Fake Beanie Babies.
You want all of them?
No.
And you want your money back.
That's right.
He says, he gives a disclaimer. Yes. At the beginning of every auction, that he's selling them for what they are. You get a chance to look at them, get a chance to touch them, smell them, taste them, feel them.
No, ma'am.
Whatever you want before the auction, and he sells them as is. So, that's what this is about, right?
That's correct.
Part of it is correct. We were not allowed to see them. Well, we saw them through a glass case. We were not allowed to touch them until after they were paid for.
Not correct.
Okay.
Well, what do you mean not
So that's
correct?
Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. Talk to me. So, first, is this the first auction that you went to?
No, ma'am.
No.
You go to these auctions regularly?
We've gone to quite a few, yes.
And you are collectors of Beanie Babies?
Yes.
How large is your collection of Beanie Babies?
Oh, we probably have, without these, probably 100. Not old like this, though.
How long have you been collecting?
Maybe 6, 7 months.
Why do you collect them?
Well, mainly because they're valuable, and my daughter sold one for $1,025. We have a friend who sold one for $3,000.
Could I see all of them?
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
So what are the usual conditions when you go to an auction?
It does say, yes, as is, where is. But it's what you say is what you have. You know, you
what do you
can't
mean what you say is what you have?
If you say you have a saw, it better be a saw, not a hammer. And if you say you have a hard-to-find Beanie Baby, that's what it is. Not one that's 6 months old and totally fake.
Okay. So tell me how these Beanie Babies were sold. You have the ad?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
I haven't seen the ad.
Okay. There was 2 ads in the Kansas City Star for an estate auction. The other one was listed in Antiques and Collectible section. They were both in the same paper.
Okay, let me read them. Okay. The part that you're referring to is plus several older, retired, hard-to-find Beanie Babies.
Yes, ma'am.
Includes Britannia, Tabasco, Flutter, Humphrey, and several others. All right, so let's try to identify these, because this is maybe where you made your mistake, sir, if you made a mistake at all. Among these Beanie Babies, now you can give them all back, because I'm going to ask her to hold them up. Among those, thank you, Miss Corder, do you have a Britannia?
No.
No.
Do you have a Tabasco?
No.
Do you have a Flutter?
Yes.
Can I see the Flutter? That's the Flutter.
Yes, that is a Flutter.
And do you have a Humphrey?
I had a Humphrey and I sold it.
One that you bought from him?
Yes, ma'am.
So that the Flutter, the Humphrey, excuse me.
Yes.
I feel so stupid here. The Humphrey that you bought from Mr. Dillon.
Yes.
Was an authentic Humphrey.
I don't know. I hope so.
But you sold it as an authentic
Yes,
Humphrey
ma'am.
to somebody else.
Yes.
And what did you pay for that Humphrey?
Humphrey. $575.
That's what you paid for it?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you sell it for?
$1,400.
We better get a Humphrey, Judge.
I better get right. You better get a Humphrey. You're absolutely right. And you sold it for $1,400.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what did you pay for this Flutter?
$385.
Okay. Now, I'm going to explain to you what I'm ruling on the rest of the items that you bought. He advertised in the paper only specifically certain items that were real. In the second ad, he said, selling several older, retired, hard to find Beanie Babies. And clearly, based on the fact that you sold at least one that you bought at a profit of $900.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Right? You got nothing to complain about there. He also says in several others, which is what you're complaining about, that these 4 or 5 that he advertised were older and retired ones. And of all of these, the only one that you have a complaint about is Flutter.
Yes, and it's fake.
And you say the Flutter is fake.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, how do you know the Flutter is fake?
Because this Flutter has beady eyes. I can show you in the book that he quoted for every Beanie Baby, the price, that Flutter does not have beady eyes.
Well, let me see it.
Okay.
Let me see it, because, Mr. Dillon, you see, part of your mistake was to specify what you were selling. Because when you, for instance, let's say you are selling jewelry. I will just make a comparison to jewelry, because I don't know diddly about Beanie Babies. I know a lot about jewelry. And let's say you put in this ad that you were selling estate jewelry and diamonds. Good quality diamonds, top quality diamonds. But then you got specific and you said you were selling a 2.77 VS1 sea clarity diamond. And it turned out that it was a diamond that was all full of spots and carbon, and more carbon than diamond. Right? Then you would have been in trouble, right?
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We tell everybody you buy it as is, when is, where is, with no warranties applied of any kind. What you see is what you get.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janice and John Corder say auctioneer H. Matt Dillon falsely claimed the Beanie Babies he sold them were authentic. Matt says they should sue the original owner.
So that's the only one. I only have a problem so far with Flutter. You want to say something?
Yes, I sure do. Yes,
Okay.
I sure do. You know, I'm an old auctioneer, business a lot of years, done over 3,000 sales. They say they've been to a lot of sales. Before every auction, you know, I work with a lot of attorneys, I do a lot of estates, work with a lot of municipalities, police departments. I know, yes, I understand. But anyway, before every sale, through legal advice, we're told to do our full disclaimer. And we do, and I do a full disclaimer before every auction. Now, she contends that she could not see these Beanie Babies. This lady had a right at any time to pick them up, look at them, handle them. Now, we locked them in the showcase so somebody won't steal them. That's the only reason they're locked. Now, when they come out of the showcase, I sold them over a period of time. And again, she had the right at any time before I sold it to walk right up where I was sitting on top of this platform selling to say, let me see this Beanie Baby. Not one time did that woman come up there and ask to see anything of any of these Beanie Babies.
Because I was told no. Whoa.
I listened.
Well, you know, don't.
I stood and listened.
Okay.
Not one time did she come up and ask to see them. Now, in my profession, we tell everybody you buy it as is, when is, where is, with no warranties applied of any kind. What you see is what you get. You take it just like your husband or your wife. You take it home, you love it forever, and call it wherever you want to call it. That's just the way everything is sold in the auctions. And we also, on all of our flyers, everything, we state, and Your Honor, be glad to see it, we print on every flyer, and it's laying right there at the sale for her to walk up and look at any time. It says, any statements made day of sale takes precedence over printed matter.
Well, let's
it's
see what it
stated
says.
right there at the auction.
Let me see what it says.
Yes.
Well, my response to this, sir, is as follows. Right down here in the bottom, in the smallest print on this entire flyer, you say, statements made the day of sale take precedence over printed matter.
Correct.
Okay. People are drawn to your auction, and I understand your position, but I'm telling you, the way you get them to come there is by your ad, correct?
That's correct.
Not by the flyer, because they're there already when you get the flyer. You draw them into your auction based upon print.
Correct.
Right? She came there because you specifically advertised, sir, several, by name, Beanie Babies. If you had just put in the ad several retired Beanie Babies, the ad would still be legitimate. Technically legitimate, because you had some old ones, you had some new ones. You went a little further. You, with specificity, named the old and retired ones that you were selling. And I just have to see whether this one that she bought was actually old and retired. So now you're going to show me the book.
I also have the paper from the internet that shows the real and fake, or shows what's wrong with them.
Let me just see it.
I also brought another one simply so you could compare the eyes. This is not one I bought at his auction. But it has a different type of eyes, so you can see what the eyes are supposed to be.
Says flutter there.
Down at the bottom and then the next page. In the book, you cannot see the eyes.
Descriptions. Fake flutter.
Flutter.
Here's the book also.
Authentic flutter is left. Counterfeit flutter is right. Oh, my God.
When I get a chance, Your Honor, I want to give you the origin of these, which will prove these are original.
Okay. Okay. Her main complaint is the beady eyes. Now let me hear you, sir.
Okay, on the Beanie Babies, on the marking, both from the Schroeder's, which is a very well-known antique collector's deal. We took a page out of it. And also this magazine we picked up here, which is an authority supposed to be on Beanie Babies. The right markings you look for that tells you how to actually identify, and it's based on ear tag and tush tag.
So let me see
and
it.
It'll tell you.
Let me see what you have.
In here. Right there. This tells you the first ones, second ones, exactly how they should be on the ear tag. And you come back here and it tells you exactly how they should be marked for the tush tag. And then I got one more bit of information here that I want to give you. We contacted Customs to find out what does constitute a counterfeit, and Customs give us this right here. We pulled it off the internet. They told us where to pull it up at. That actually tells what a counterfeit is. A counterfeit is any Beanie Baby bought in China, brought into America, because Thai does not recognize that. Even though it's original Beanie Baby, if you don't buy it through Thai, they call it a counterfeit. I mean, we're telling you, this is the facts.
They're all facts.
Shut up.
If I buy Chevy out the back door, it's a counterfeit.
I know that you're an auctioneer, but please, give me a break. It's early in the day. Well, certainly based on what you have in this book, the tag, what you call the tush tag.
The tush tag is the back one, yes.
Is certainly legitimate.
Right.
Maybe. Maybe.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I am certain that this somebody else, unless they were just released from an institution, did not pay $1,400 for this piece of stuff, nothing, right? Unless you indicated to them that it was an authentic Beanie Baby.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Beanie Baby collectors Janice and John Corder claim they were sold fakes by auctioneer H. Matt Dillon.
Mr. Dillon, how many of these did you sell?
I sold 18.
How many of these?
Oh, one.
Just one?
One. There's one of each.
Okay. And as far as you're concerned, this is authentic?
As far as I'm concerned, it's authentic, yes.
Good, you just bought it back.
Your Honor, could I say one more thing?
Sure.
Okay. She bought 6 out of 18. That means there's 12 more went out of there. I contacted one of our customers, which is a good Beanie Baby dealer. Of course, I saw him out of the Beacon, not that book, never heard of it before. But anyway, I contacted the one. He's done sold his. He says they're authentic. They're good. Everybody's happy. The only complaint I had is right here. Yeah, he made a big profit on them.
The fact that the ad said several others does not mean there are several they did not name.
Well, now I'm going to come back to you, and you're going to be really sorry you asked me that question.
Well, probably.
Yeah, you are. Because
Thank you.
You said something before to me that was really telling with regard to our Humphrey Beanie Baby.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that you bought it for $500, you sold it for $1,400, which
Yes,
means you
ma'am.
made a profit of $900.
Yes, ma'am.
And I said to you, was it authentic? And you said, I don't know, but I hope so.
Yes, ma'am.
Which means that, and I don't know who this person is that you sold it to.
No, but with conscience, I have to find
Just
that,
a second. You sold it.
Yes, ma'am.
To somebody else.
Yes.
And I am certain that this somebody else, unless they were just released from an institution, did not pay $1,400 for this piece of stuffed nothing, right? Unless you indicated to them that it was an authentic Beanie Baby.
Yes, ma'am.
And you weren't sure.
No, but if you look at the picture that...
You weren't sure.
No, ma'am. Well, at that point, I was sure that it was real. I had no idea they were fake. None whatsoever. But now I know they are.
Now, all right, let's assume, madam, for the purpose of argument, that's true. And I'm not so sure I believe you, because it was, according to you, it's very easy to tell whether this was fake or real, because all you had to do was look in a book, because you say, you could see, it's right there.
No.
The eyes,
In the book, you can't see the eyes.
What?
In that book, you can't see the eyes.
In the book that you gave me, you can't see the eyes?
No, ma'am, you can't. You can't tell that they're not beads.
If you're telling me that I can't tell that, then how are you giving it to me to prove that this is a fake?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Mr. Dillon, this is your business, sir?
Yes.
You like happy customers?
I love happy customers.
Good. And you think that this is an authentic Beanie Baby?
I think it's authentic.
Good.
The man that sold him was willing to give her money back.
Yes, he was.
Just a second. Well, that's absolutely terrific. So what are we all doing here?
Because when I filed my lawsuit, I was also told to file a complaint with the Better Business Bureau and the Missouri Attorney General's office, which I did do. When it all came about with the man who brought him to Mr. Dillon, said he would return my money, that he told Mr. Dillon from the start, if anybody has any complaint about any of the Beanie Babies, I will gladly refund their money.
So
Mr. Dillon here tells me he has the money and he will give it to me when I kiss his butt and write a letter stating that I overreacted and should not have filed any kind of claim or charges against him.
Well, let me ask you this question, Ms. Corder. Now I understand that there is certain animus in addition to everything else. Did you file your complaint with the Attorney General before or after you sold Humphrey?
After.
Give him his Beanie Baby. He wants it back. He's going to sell it and make a whole bunch of profit. So you're just buying one back. As far as the others are concerned, it's caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. That's not what drew you to the auction. It was the ones he specified that drew you to the auction. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $385. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
অবশ্যই ভিডিওটা করে দেখতে পারবেন না